started by introducing you to the students who are going to be helping you out with that Ripen project. So that was the marketing support and graphic design support that we had mentioned. And you'll notice there's another face here. Stephanie Hernandez is here with us. She's works with us full-time in co-op, but has been helping us out with this project. So I'm gonna we have all of them in the waiting room. So I'm just going to admit all of them, and then I'll turn it over to Stephanie to introduce them. So let's just bring them all in. Give them a moment to sign in. Yes, if possible, if you can turn on your cameras just so that everyone gets a chance to meet each other. This will be just a quick introduction, which we'll make sure to have more time for a full introduction a little bit later on this week. Excellent. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us. We're really excited today to have our students who are with us through the Ripen platform to talk to us about the Creative Assistant program that we have through Leap Junction. In this program, we have wonderful students who are experts in marketing and graphic design who are here to help each of you, wonderful entrepreneurs, with various needs that you'll have for growing and scaling your business depending on the stage that you are at. With that, I will turn it over to Stephanie to give a bit of an overview of the program and these lovely people who have joined us. Go ahead, Steph.
Great. Thank you, Kelsey. Hi, everybody. It's nice to see everyone's faces. It's really wonderful. I've been reading about your businesses, so now I'm starting to put a little bit of a face to the business plans. So just to talk a little bit about the project over the summer. So this year, Leap launched a pilot initiative with the Ripen Level Up platform, and that was to hire 6 students with marketing and graphic design backgrounds to help support you in growing your business. So how it's going to work in teams of 2, so a team that will have a marketer and a graphic designer will pair up with about 4 clients. So we've already kind of set who the clients are for each team, and we're going to introduce you more formally on Thursday. We're going to do a little breakout session so you can meet who you're going to be working with. You can introduce yourself and your business, and then at that point, your creative assistants are going to take it from there. They're going to follow up with you. They're going to set up some meetings to do some consultation, kind of get a sense of sort of where your needs are and what they can potentially provide to your business. So these students are going to be joining us for today's session, tomorrow's session, and Thursday session, of course. Again, it's just great so that they can be here to listen to kind of the introductions and the direction that you're getting when it comes to graphic design and marketing, and they can really hope to bridge some of the gap that you have for your business. So to introduce you to, maybe I'll start with the graphic designers. I'm just trying to see who I have on my screen right now. So maybe, where's Maria? If you can just give a little thumbs up. I think you can do it on. See, she doesn't have her camera on right now, but we have Maria Mekova. We also have Fair. Can you give a little hand up, Fair, at Say Cheese Studio? And we have Alyssa Giles. Can you give a little thumbs up, Alyssa? All right. So these are the graphic designers who are all finishing up their first year of graphic design at Fanshawe College. So they'll be working with marketers to meet you and really help your business grow and provide some assets that a graphic designer really can. And then we also have our marketers here. I believe we have 2 of them. So we have Ryan. Can you just give a little thumbs up? Perfect. Okay. And I think we have Neelam as well. Oh, there. Neelam, can you just give a little thumbs up as well? Great. So your 3rd marketer, Harmony, is unable to join the session, but if she is available, she'll try to jump in on the Thursday session to meet you in your groups. So just wanted to do a little quick intro. Of course, you'll be seeing these faces at the next few sessions, and you'll get to meet them more in depth on Thursday, but really looking forward to hearing more about your businesses and how we can support in a really holistic fashion. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Stephanie. And as Stephanie alluded to, so our wonderful Ripen creative assistants will be joining us all week. So they'll be learning what we're learning. And we'll be working together in any breakout rooms. So a great chance for everyone to get to know each other. To our Ripen students, this will be a great opportunity for you to get to know a little bit about what we're telling the entrepreneurs they need to be doing, and combining that with your own expertise. We're confident we'll be able to bring forth some great results from this partnership. So we're really happy to have you here. We look forward to working with you. I know that the entrepreneurs in the Leap In program are really excited about this. They've been really antsy to meet you. So it's a good day to have a good day, and we're excited to move forward with this project. We have our first guest speaker coming out 1:15, but we wanted to leave the next 6 or so minutes. If anyone has any questions, comments, or anything they want to share before we get into the session. All righty. All right, well, with that, you'll be together for the duration of the week. Our creative assistants are invited to every session this week, and they can stay for some or all of the session, depending on what they're curious about learning. And then for that, I will turn it over to Dave to give us a little bit of an overview of what we'll be talking about today and for the week, and to leap right in.
Thanks, Kelsey. Hi, everybody. Welcome to week 5 of Leap In. For the new faces here, very nice to meet those of you who haven't met before. Really excited to see how all the synergy is going to happen, and I hope that we got some good relationships that are going to start over this week. But topics for all of you for this week, what we're going over, this is kind of our first full week of marketing. So today we're talking branding, we're talking graphic design, and we are talking content marketing. So we have 3 speakers coming today. First one is Katelyn Landry. She's going to talk a little bit around branding and creating your brand guide and brand avatar. Then we have James Kingsley and Kendra Matheson joining us. James is going to talk around graphic design and branding from kind of a creative director point of view. And then Kendra is going to follow that up with a bit of content marketing. So we'll dip into that. Then tomorrow we have 2 Lawrence Kinlan School of Business professors joining us, Craig Flynn and Jennifer Dittmer. They are going to be talking both about strategic marketing from kind of a modern perspective, so mainly around digital marketing, but they're going to get into both strategy and tactics for you guys, both from their perspectives. Both of them have a lot of industry expertise prior to being with the LKSB school. So everyone that's coming in the next 2 days, very large industry knowledge. So if there's questions or you want examples, those are great people to talk to and follow up with contacts after, if you get specifics about your business. So all their information is up on FOL for you. So after you've had some face-to-face time, it's good to reach out afterwards. And then on Thursday, we have the lovely Jenny Baxter leading us through an awesome workshop around social media marketing. So all of you know Jenny, who's here. Say hi, Jenny. Sorry, 1 second. My boss is yelling at me. All right, after you, sir. Go ahead. Sorry about that. And then we'll wrap up with Brag and Drag with Ryan Kelly on Thursday before we finish off for the week. So that's everything in a nutshell. If you have questions, please book some office hours with us. I'm available tomorrow and the next day before our sessions at 1 o'clock. So if you've got some stuff that you're working on or any questions, make sure you book some time for one-on-ones. And I think with that, I was wondering, since we got about 5 minutes until Katelyn shows up, does anybody want to share their tweetable pitch that we talked about last day? Did anyone have a chance to see if they could make it work in 280 characters? Tracy, I see your hand up. You want to give it a go? I'd love to hear it.
Sure. I got like 280 on the dot, and it was like really fun to try and figure that out. Just give me 1 second. I just have to like minimize this so I can get it up. Okay, so pitch is right here.
You want to put it in the, do you have it? You can throw it in the chat too.
Sure. I can do that. So at Select Start Network, we are helping businesses reach their ideal client by providing exceptional images, videos, and live broadcasting services. With our specialized equipment, your customer will know the quality you bring to your brand and community. Your success is our success.
Excellent. Great job, Tracy. Does anyone have any feedback for Tracy? Anybody? How hard was that to narrow it down?
I chose like 1 sentence, like the main sentence in my big pitch, and then I just like chose like specialized equipment, and then I kind of like chose like some main points that we have discussed over the last 4 weeks, and then just kind of added like your success is our success, because that's kind of like why we do what we do. And I feel like it's short and sweet and it kind of gets to the point. And then there was like, instead of like A-N-D, I put like the symbol for and to get like a character down there too. I got rid of some commas a couple places that didn't like before ands and stuff. You don't absolutely need it. So I got rid of that. Yeah, so it is exactly 280.
Nice. Great job, Tracy. Thank you for sharing. Did anybody else take a crack at it that wants to share? No?
I can go.
Okay. Go ahead,
Just gonna
Cecilia.
pull it up here. Do you want it in the chat too?
Sure.
Mine might be too short. It's only like 2 sentences. So at Ecclesia by Cecilia, we offer modest and elegant clothing for Canadian women that is both ethically and sustainably made in London, Ontario. We also offer services such as alterations and custom work. That was as short as I could make it.
I like it. It's very straight and to the point. Any feedback for Cecilia, guys?
I really like that she put London, Ontario. I forgot to put my location, so that was nice.
Yeah, and Jenny was saying, yeah, don't forget to incorporate those hashtags throughout it as well.
I didn't even think about that. That's a great point. Thanks, Jenny.
Okay, we have, so thank you for sharing, Cecilia and Tracy. Great job. I know that's not easy to whittle down a 1-minute pitch into into a couple sentences. So great job. Definitely encourage all you guys to be able to narrow that down as well. And we'll be asking for more examples of them throughout the rest of this week and into next week. So keep tweaking those pitches and yeah, keep it going. So I'm going to let Katelyn in. Just give me a second here, guys. Am I able
While
to?
David's doing that, I'm just going to say a fond, you're all great. And I am at a conference this week, so I will be in and out, but I will not be here for the rest of today's session. So if you need me, just shoot me an email and we can chat either after, or I also have office hours tomorrow morning. Enjoy your
What just happened? Where did everybody just go?
That wasn't just me?
Oh, I don't know what just happened.
Okay, I thought it was just me for sure. Is it just us?
I don't know what just happened.
Oh, that's so weird. Here we go. Oh boy.
I don't know what just happened. Sorry about that, guys. Looks like everyone just kind of went into a breakout room. I'm not really sure how that happened, so I apologize. Katelyn, are you with us?
Hi, everyone.
Hello, everybody. Give Katelyn a nice Leap Junction wave. Thanks so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it, and it's great to see you.
Wow, this is awesome. Thanks for having me.
No problem. I like your shirt. It's very colorful.
Yes, I had to bring in the flowers since we're in spring.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Awesome. Well, Katelyn, I'm just going to give everybody a quick introduction. I let them know what we're going to be talking about today, but I wanted to give them a little bit of background about you so they know who's going to be leading our session here. So as you guys know, Katelyn, as I mentioned before, she runs a company called Forge Thrills, and that's how we met, was through the Ontario Spark program. And I had the opportunity to offer some advice to Katelyn on a project that she's got going on that's really great. But in her day-to-day, Katelyn is an art director, and she works with entrepreneurs to help ensure their business lives outside of their personal reach. Their business lives outside of their personal reach with design and marketing. She has created digital content for larger international brands like CIBC Bank and Ontario Tourism, but much prefers supporting the local community of London, working directly with start to mid-level businesses like all of you. Katelyn is also in the early stages of launching her second business called Forge Thrills, which curates premium experiences around foraging and is really cool. And I definitely suggest that Katelyn tells you guys all about it, because I think it's really unique, and I really can't wait to actually get a Forge Thrill experience myself. So Katelyn, the floor is yours. You should have the ability to share your screen. So take it away.
Awesome. Thank you again for having me in that lovely intro. I'm actually going to be sharing a little bit more about Forage Thrills as we can go through the brand guide at the end. So you'll see a little bit more about Forage Thrills as an example of some of the branding elements that I'm going to be talking about today. So I do have a little bit of a slideshow presentation that we'll be able to walk through together. And I'm just going to go ahead and share that right away with everyone. All right, so you should be able to see my Adobe PDF now. Perfect. Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about the brand essentials, and it's more than just a logo, and it's my name, right? So what our business is more than just a logo. So just to kind of recap what is a brand, right? I'm sure you've touched on it throughout your course, but just to kind of give us the foundation, a brand is a name, term, sign, symbol, and a combination really of all of them that identifies the product or service or one seller or group to differentiate them from the competitors. So I like to think of brands like the clothing you wear, right? I wore a floral print dress, and that speaks for me to, you know, I know that these are flowers that are edible, and I just love color and being out in nature. So that speaks a little bit about me kind of right off the bat. And you can see that maybe on a spring day, what we wear is gonna tell us if you run hot or cold, if you need a hoodie today, or if you're comfortable in a tank top. If someone likes fashion, we can start to understand a little bit more about their views and their interests in kind of good quality purchases, or maybe if they're not, maybe they don't see through kind of like that materialistic side of things, right? So assuming that your brand is just a logo is kind of the whole premise of my presentation. And we're working against that assumption of your brand is just a logo. And I want to clarify that the magnitude and the power of your brand can have a huge impact on your business. So at the core of all of this, we understand that people aren't brand loyal because your logo is cute. But on the other hand, if your logo is kind of unclear or confusing or just poorly done, it can be a disservice to your business. And kind of just, again, keeping in mind that it is first impressions, right? So if you had an illegible font or a symbol that is confusing or contradicting to your service, you want your logo to reflect your unique nature in your business and make sure it doesn't have the audience questioning the quality of your service or your product. So we know a big part of what makes our brands is the perception that lives in the mind of the consumers. So how does it reflect in our customer's mind? It's very important to kind of check in regularly and think about that and wonder, like, how is your customer experience connecting with them on every level throughout their experience and their journey? Do you have a follow-up sequence after you connect with them? Do you engage with them inclusively, or are you kind of inclusive as far as like supporting language barriers? Do you have practice cultural sensitivity? Do you invest in translation services, things like that? If you're a brick and mortar, do you have ramps, courtesy lanes, other special amenities for maybe pregnant women, the elderly, or people with disability? So all those things start to kind of play into your brand experience when you engage with your potential customer. Branding versus marketing. So this one's kind of confusing because I think a lot of people think it's one and the same, and they cannot be used interchangeably, but they do go hand in hand. So branding is defining who or what your brand is, and marketing is how people become aware of it. So sometimes it seems like they overlap, but in strategies pertaining to each element of our branding, they work within their own. So there are people who specialize kind of in brand strategies, and there are people who specialize in marketing strategies as well. So having your brand identity without the proper marketing strategy is kind of like getting all dressed up and having no place to go. Or it could be like having a place to go and you're dressed up, but you have no place to get there. No form of transportation to get there. So this simple formula of the right consumer, the right message, and the right medium is kind of like that grounds for success. Branding is the foundation, and marketing is what makes it share-worthy. So I'm gonna open up a question to the floor and ask kind of, when we think of brand elements, what other elements can we think of? If we say, well, it's not just logos, which is one, so we can check that off, but I have a list of about a dozen more. So does anyone want to kind of share or open or any ideas of what else you think of marketing or a brand element could be?
We have some things showing up in the chat.
Oh, I don't have the chat open. Let me see.
So so we've got mascot, hashtags, a
Yes.
slogan, color palette or word mark, graphics, fonts, music, tagline, mission and vision, merchandise.
Yes. Awesome. That is a lot. You guys know all of this. This is perfect. So yeah, all of these elements start to come together, tone of voice, uniform, exactly. I have a little bit of assembled list here. So I think we almost caught all of them. So I'll just start by going logos, fonts, colors, photography style. So how do you go about shooting your campaign or social media content, things like that. You have icons, illustration elements, patterns, and textures. So these could be elements that go on your packaging or are little icons on your website, for example. Taglines was mentioned. Mood boards, something that can serve as inspiration. Props, styling, models, so kind of what kind of model, I guess, would identify and with your target audience. Wardrobe cubes, someone mentioned uniforms, that's perfect. That falls under wardrobe cues. But also, how would you style someone for a photo shoot? Music and playlists, you're right. If you had a brick and mortar, a location, is it up to the staff to kind of play whatever music they're feeling like that day, or do you have like a set style that you're going to be playing? Media templates, content layout. Someone has a style guide, that's awesome. Tone of voice, what kind of language do you use? What kind of keywords fit your branding as opposed to another brand's? Mascot or animal inspiration, environment, merchandising, stationery, and you can even start pulling from kind of different cultures or different parts around the world for some of these things as well. So when I think about Las Vegas, for example, right, you have each hotel that is pulling from like a culture or a beautiful location around the world. Oops. So I think you guys got a good sense of all of these different elements that we have here. So not every brand or your business has to have all of these things established kind of right away to be successful, and you have to have all this figured out, nor do you need them to be established all at once. It does take time. So we can start to think about it. And I actually have this great quote. I'm just going to copy paste it into the chat. It's from the North Face marketing strategist. They had kind of this quote. 1 second. Paste. And it just kind of reads, brands are like coral. They build on a whole bunch of different points and come together in an elegant way down the road. But while you are branding them, it's hard to see. And their impact doesn't really come together instantly, but over time. So you can start to take these elements and think about how they play into, or how you can reverse engineer from this idea of like who we are, your brand statement. We talked about hashtags and keywords start to evolve from defining some of these elements, or the other way around. But today what we're going to do is we're going to create our brand personality. And that's kind of the focus of what we're going to talk about the rest of the presentation. So I just have some examples from Pinterest. None of these ones are mine, but just kind of a good overview of how you're starting to see some branding elements evolve in different ways, right? So not just the logo, but you have kind of even down to like the type of paper that is being used. It's more raw. It's, you know, maybe it's natural fibers as opposed to plastic, to kind of give this idea of the ingredients that are in your product. Maybe this is a candle company, but they have a supporting product of matches, but it's not just, you know, standard packaging. They have like a saying that evokes a lifestyle. The environment is kind of encapsulated, even though they have a logo on the wall, that's great. But again, you're seeing some of those elements come through in the environment itself. And we see kind of that idea of, yes, this is marketing, because they said, okay, well, a vehicle is how we're going to get it out to, for people to see it, but how they've wrapped it in itself is really with the branding of like the symbols, the icons, the colors, and things like that. And again, just supporting elements to support the lifestyle of, you know, you have swag, branded swag. What is a lifestyle that supports a coffee brand when you talk about living in Minnesota, for example? So just to go on and continue with brand personality. Brand personality is a specific mix of traits that may be attributed to a particular brand. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to humanize each of our brands today. We want to give them a personality of their own, and we're even going to go as far as giving them a name. So to attract the right buyer, it's not solely about telling a story. You know, the idea of storytelling can be a little bit of a marketing buzzword. It's really easy to think of how we can speak to our audience about us, but the trick in itself is to craft a narrative that revolves around your customer first, with your product or your service as the supporting characters that help them get where they need to go. So in other words, your buyer's motivation write the story, and its support, and that's the strategy, not the other way around. So I like to think of the customer and your brand avatar or your brand personality. I kind of use brand personality, brand avatar, company avatar, all interchangeably. So let's say your brand avatar and your customer, they're best friends. It's that idea of like going to a restaurant and bonding with your best friend over this awesome experience you had, and literally your best friend like, oh, me too, and remember when that happened, and this happened to me too, and you kind of are going back and forth over these mutually lived experiences and just kind of connecting on that level. So by using a defined avatar to resonate with your target audience, you can hone in on the people who align with your business ideals and what you have or what you will be offering. The more human your avatar is, the more people will trust your brand. So I often think about like why I like my favorite brands It's not because I know the CEO of the company that I want to support them. It's because I've connected with their personality, what they're projecting out into the world, and I have connected with that. So you can use them in a variety of marketing scenarios. So when you talk about your brand avatar, you can think about how they would post on social media. What type of video content are they going to be creating? If they were to be doing blogs or long format content. It also will help determine guerrilla campaigns, events to start attending. It will also determine and give you a better sense of who qualifies as your dream influencer. Do we just want to find an influencer because they're popular, or do we want to find an influencer because they most likely resemble kind of your avatar that you just designed for your business? So it really is a tool that will help kind of in many different define many different assets in your branding. And so I just kind of create this really basic, simple chart of the things you care about and the ideal things that your customer cares about. And then your brand is really that sweet spot in the middle. And that is kind of the personality of your brand in the space that we want it to hold. So here's the activity part of my presentation. So if everyone wants to pull out a blank piece of paper or notes on their computer or whatever you're working with, I'll give you a minute to kind of gather a pen. And it's nothing too formal, but we'll just kind of go at it. And I'll just take a quick second to make sure there's nothing in the chat. Perfect, thank you. Okay, can I get a thumbs up from those who have their video on that you have a pen or something? You're ready to go? Yes, yes, okay, perfect. So first off, I'm gonna ask us to put a name at the top of our page. And this is gonna be your brand avatar's name. So my business is called Forage Thrills, and my brand avatar's name is Fiona. I picked an F name because the first initial is an F, but you can call your brand avatar any name that you want. I think it's important that we're going to give them a name to differentiate them from us. Our brand is not ourselves. Our brand is going to be this personalized persona of our brand. So when you have a name up there, we'll start to go on a blind date and get to know who this person even really is. So I don't know if anybody's been on a blind date. I've been married for a little while. I don't really know the apps and all that, but this is gonna be our version of a blind date today. So you're gonna need to answer the questions as if you are your brand avatar, okay? So you are the name now that you've written down. So you can follow along and you can do it point form if you want, or you can just have fun scribbling wherever you want on the paper. It's all good. So what is the best part of your day? So if your name is Joe now or Jane, I'm asking you, what is the best part of your day? So you can be specific. You can say morning, you could say evening, but you could say even something more specific. You could say that first cup of coffee in the morning. It can resonate with your product or service. If you have I don't know, let me think. A beach floaty device. Best part of your day is, the drive up to the beach and that quality time you have driving to the beach, okay? There's a few examples for you. What makes you happy or excited? What's that one thing that gets you excited? Remember, this is not you personally, it's your avatar. If anybody has any questions, you can feel free to unmute yourself and ask away. Okay, and now the opposite question. What makes you sad or angry? I had a client that was doing an apparel brand and they were all about ethically sourced materials. So what made them sad was unfair labor costs, you know, things like that. So you can start to think about how it, again, represents your brand, and your brand is represented by your character. What is your ideal landscape? Where is the dream environment your avatar loves to hang out in? Is it the city? Are they urban? Are they in the country? Are they the bottom of the ocean? I had that from a client once. They want this beautiful, calm space, right? So you can be abstract too. It's okay. Our avatar is not really a real person, so they can go there if they want. With one word, how would you describe your best, or how would your best friend describe you? So this is confusing because we are asking now our ideal client to describe us, our avatar. What's the one word? What is your dream job? So this can be within the industry that your product or service is. Maybe this is something, maybe they want to be a speaker on a cause that's important to them. Maybe it resonates to the social aspect or the social impact of your business. What color best describes your personality? So there is colors that, you know, are related to psychology, but we don't have to get that specific today. Just what color feels right for your personality. What are you most passionate about? Is it ethically sourced? Is it food for everybody? What are good quality ingredients for everybody? Things like that. What do you consider your best attribute? Are you a people person? Do you like to make your friends laugh? If you have friends coming over for supper, what would you cook? I feel like that's a classic speed dating question. What are you gonna cook for them? What are the most important things you're looking for in a business? If you were to shop somewhere else, what is it that is important to you? What world affairs are you passionate about? Or social justice, or any type of things, like what would you consider recycling? Where is your favorite place to shop? So if you were to buy something, where are you gonna go? What are your favorite hobbies or pastime? So what do you do in your spare time? Does your avatar go hiking? Does your avatar hang out by the pool? And the last question of our speed date for now is, what is your favorite book, movie, or documentary? How are you kind of indulging in pop culture or gaining education or knowledge? So feel free to unmute yourself or add into the chat. I would like to just learn and wonder, or I'm wondering if anyone learned anything interesting about their brand personality, avatar, or imaginary friend. Was there anything that kind of felt like I didn't know that about my brand personality, or shocking, or that was a weird question?
I think it was like harder than I thought it was going to be to go into that level of detail, like, and think about like some of these like motivations and emotions and things. Like I've never thought about that for the brand. I think I've just thought about it for like your target customer, but it was interesting to like apply it to something we've talked about only kind of abstractly.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting to, when you're thinking about your target audience, you have more of the opportunity of being reactive. Whereas when you have kind of this defined for like, this is my personality, this is who I am, and I know that, then that's when you can really start to be proactive in how you want to put yourself out there and connect with them and lead a little bit more by example that way. And it might feel a little bit more authentic when you're thinking about your brand and coming from it that way. And then instead of feeling like, oh, I have to resonate with my target audience because of this. Anybody else like to share? I'll give some examples of how this is going to translate after, but I just wanted to see if there's any other thoughts. Rachel said, picking a name that feels right is hard. Yeah, I put you on the spot to pick a name. So you definitely have time to kind of come around and really pick a name or sleep on it and think of a name that does feel right for your brand avatar. I'd say this is kind of like our first rough play draft. And I believe David has the PDF to share with you, so you can revisit some of these questions and reflect on them a little bit more intimately.
Ebony has her hand raised, Katelyn.
Yeah.
Ebony.
So I felt like I was being a bit biased. I don't know, because I'm like, I'm the one that's creating it, and I've been learning about like the market and what the market wants and all of this. And so being able to like, I'm like, okay, how authentic do I be here? And like, how, like, am I saying answers based on who I want to buy and like all this kind of stuff. So it was very, I'm like kind of going back and forth, because I'm like, is this just me being open and honest? And then if I do that, am I being biased?
Yes, totally. And that idea of like, right, am I speaking on behalf of my target audience, or is it me? Like, I've always had the problem of like thinking like, well, I'm passionate about the environment, so therefore like every aspect of my business should kind of speak to that. So I think there's that separation that will help kind of in the long run of realizing like our biases and our interests versus kind of what our target audience or our marketing research shows us. But also keep in mind that there should be a nice bridge that comes together with that marketing research that you're speaking about, because you should be able to resonate on that date with your target audience and your brand personality. They should be able to have a conversation about it and just love and go on about it for, you know, hours and hours on end. So there is going to be a little bit of overlap, but you just want to make sure that you're really identifying your personality and spend time getting to know your character in that way.
So would you say that your avatar is like, which one of, like, do you put more of? Do you put more of you, meaning that you want to resonate, you want them to resonate with you, your brand, your business, or are you going to kind of shift to resonate with them specifically? And like, how do you balance that? Because you want it to be obviously what you care about and what you resonate with. So who, like, is it the the drawing, the pulling or the attracting. I mean, what is it? Attracting or the pulling? I don't know.
I'd say it depends on your business and your brand. Like you could have that and your tone of voice, right? Like, does it help? Can you tell me what your service or your product is quickly?
Yeah, it's a social justice business that has to do with helping people that want to use their voice and to create change within the Black community through content creation.
Okay, so I can see how you're trying to so you would have to kind of decide about your tone of voice when you speak to your audience. Are you really kind of preaching, or are you being transparent and vulnerable, and it's a story about us and our unity coming together? So there's that tone of voice and like how you want to approach it. And then I think that would kind of tell you a little bit about like your personality and how you want your brand persona to be projected out to the audience, because that really goes hand in hand.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does.
Okay, great. And I'm happy to continue the conversation with you after if you want to go more in detail. I love how detailed these questions were. Make such a precise avatar. Yes, thanks, Brick. It is kind of a fun way of thinking about our brand avatar and who they are. One thing I was going to say, okay, well, question number 10 is, if you were to have friends coming over for supper, what would you cook? Like, why is that important? Maybe for every brand, it's not. But when you talk about, Taco Tuesday, is that something you're going to post about on social media? Like, you have to kind of decide what you're going to engage in, and knowing your brand avatar and what they're interested in and like things like that would kind of speak to that. If you kind of said, well, I'm going to cook pancakes for all my people, then maybe you're going to engage in International Pancake Day. So things like that, you can start to think about what will become important to you when you have kind of these specific ideas of who your brand avatar is. It also, again, like I said, like you might think about what events to start attending, because you had decided that a world affair that you're passionate about is water consumption. So maybe it's important for your brand to attend some kind of convention around the importance of water security and things like that. So it's a bit of an out-of-box thinking, but it really can take you a lot of different ways depending on how you explore each of those questions. So next steps, if you guys want to continue this, I know I can't remember what our end time was, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of homework to kind of continue building on your brand avatar. Give them a job title, give them a description. How old are they? Tell me a little bit about their psychographics, what they care about. You can talk about their goals, their challenges, their pain points. Like, literally, the more detailed and specific you get in creating your brand avatar, the more your avatar will keep giving. Like, it will help you along the way. And to help define some of those things, you can sit down and just kind of think about it how we did in a fun way, or you can interview your customers and think about like how you can resonate with them. You can think about secondary research, industry blogs, identify your dream influencer, go on Instagram and find them. They probably exist, and you can base it off of someone in real life if you want. You can base it off of a superhero if you want. So yeah, there's competitor information on social media. Check with any customer service teams if you're already established. Website analytics, email analytics. You can do Facebook Pixel. Everybody's on Facebook. You can quite easily get some good information to kind of create them there. So it's very easy to kind of abandon your brand somewhere along the way. So my question is, do you have a brand guide? And this is where you're going to put your bio of your brand avatar and add them in there. So again, we want to make sure that once you've established all your brand elements, you can keep updating it regularly. and referring to it regularly when you have to make business decisions. And they should eventually start to give you all the answers you need when it comes to having those questions for how to market, or what should I post on social media, or what should my email marketing campaign, what event should I, what collaboration should I do? Is this business appropriate for me to collaborate with? You can consult your brand avatar and go, well, does this make sense? Because really the worst thing you can, well, not the worst thing, but something that, you know, a lot of people go into is collaborating with a business and they think it's going to be right for all the right reasons. And it's not, because there's no synergy there, right? So brand guides make it easier for you to coordinate. So I do have my Forage Thrills brand guide here, and I can give you a little inside look at what I created for my foraging business. And you can kind of see how things start to come together, and also learn a little bit about Forage Thrills if that interests you. Okay, so I started with a table of contents, and I've kind of included like this idea of segregating my internal branding and my external branding. So internal branding is really the elements and the tools and the details that you would have for you, your staff, your marketing team, partners, things like that. So you're all on the same page. Whereas the external branding is like the details that I've decided is what the customer and the public would see. So the logo, primary colors, what fonts I'm going to use, things like that. So I have kind of a start with my purpose and my mission in my brand guide. I'm not going to read everything to you, but I'll just kind of share. Forage Thrills curates elegant and seasonal themed adventures through events and pop-up experiences. Guests get to revel in the luxury of a simple life, connecting with beautiful wonders of nature and all it has to offer. So then I have like a little bit of a statement of who we are and the values that are important to us in the company. So my values for Forage Thrills is very rewilding. So that idea of reconnecting with nature. Beauty, so there's lots of luxury in kind of how I want to curate my experiences. Harmony, coexisting with nature, nature itself, and how can we minimize our carbon footprint and have things like that way. Community, so the importance of partnership and collaborations, and to inspire people again to reconnect with nature and realize the value in that. Something that I created was a brand scale, and we talked about our tone of voice and things like that in our when we are identifying our brand assets. So something I do with my clients is I do a brand scale. You can cheat and take a screenshot if you want, but I kind of ask these questions of polar opposites of feminine, masculine, where do you fit on that scale? Simple versus complex. And we have this conversation of kind of figuring out what that means for your business. And that will help kind of determine what your brand voice is. So are you down to earth? Are you approachable? In my case, we're friendly, trustworthy, we're preachy. We're not preachy, but we're inspirational, right? So that's kind of how we speak to what's important for us. Okay, so I am going to read the brand avatar because this is my brand avatar for Forage Thrills, and since that's what we spoke about, I figured it would be a good example. So my brand avatar is named Fiora Thorn. The world that Fiona lives in is not the same as most see it to be. Her days are filled with love and passion for nature around her and the endless benefits it has to offer. She navigates urban wild landscapes with elegance and grace, with curiosity and eagerness to experience more. Although residing in a city, she connects and engages with nature as if one had stumbled on an enchanted forest. Seasonal harvests are done intentionally to help educate the community, but also encourages growth in urban neighborhoods back home. She believes every residential lawn should be a food forest. Fiora loves to celebrate nature through creativity, unconventional uses, clothing, jewelry, and other artisan hobbies that coincide with the environment. Where wildcrafting to most means herbalism associated with medical benefits, for her, it is more a balance and way of life to strive towards harmony and a balance with nature. The act of foraging itself, as well as processing any harvest, although is not spiritual, is almost a ceremonial celebration in itself. It's grounding, humbling, and highly rewarding. Although foraging every day is not realistic, utilizing edible flowers, herbs, and other fresh produce from her garden is ideal. She is known to support edible weeds to grow in unison with the garden, pulling from permaculture and forest agriculture techniques. So that's a little bit of Fiora, and you can kind of see how some of the questions that we did in our blind date are weaved into this description and is written in a way that makes sense for this brand aesthetic. So you can do your brand personality however you want. In your brand guide, it can be point form, it could be an essay. Mind you, I don't know who's gonna read that. If you have a staff member, they read this essay, this is who we are. But it starts to kind of, you know, I get Fiora, therefore I get the brand and what it stands for. And that's kind of the goal with your brand avatar, and that I hope you can apply. And I do have another client's example here, just to quickly show a background, not to give you too much background on who and what she is, but she is a creative person, and you can kind of see how she kind of identified three personas. She kind of like the three sisters of her brand. And so she has the free spirit Frankie, she has the cool, calm, clear K, and she has the generator G. And she speaks to kind of the points of each of these personas. And here she has like a little visual as to each of those. And she kind of says they're like the creative Charlie's Angels, right? So again, she's pulled from a pop culture reference and said, these three girls are my brand avatar. So again, you can get really creative. It doesn't have to be a long format text. It can be point form. It can be visual like this. And you can start to see how maybe her business reflects that personality. Yeah, it definitely doesn't have to be one avatar. It can be multiple if you have multiple facets of your business, right? If you have an intake portion of your service versus an external part of your service, right? So there's lots and lots of customization you can do with your brand avatar. And that's just a few examples. I'm gonna leave some time for any questions. You can start putting your questions in the chat as we come to an end, and I just kind of scroll through the last of the brand guide. And then in my brand guide, I have my ideal customer. So you start to see the difference between my ideal customer and my brand avatar. My ideal customer has a peak interest in eco-friendly and sustainable lifestyle. So they're not the same. They're kind of interested and they're curious. And they have, they're at the early stages of wanting to learn more about nature in an engaging way. So, you know, the events and the experience is going to appeal to them. They are foodies and they enjoy tasting experiences, but they also love being outdoors and are interested in mini vacation excursions, right? So you want your customer and your ideal customer and your avatar to kind of have that yin and yang balance to them. So I wrote down my brand solution is listed in here, my event inspiration for what gatherings would be for the community. Product inspiration is in my brand guide, so items that I'm going to be releasing soon or want to release in the future. edible plants that we aspire to or can forage here in our area and can speak to on social media. It's almost like it's a inspiration page at the same time. Trends to look forward to. So we were talking about social responsibility and things that are interesting to my brand avatar. So I've created a whole page here of, you know, Fiora loves fashion, right? She talked about sustainable fashion. So maybe I could speak to kind of this tree hugger collection that Phipps came out with in 2020, right? So you start to have a foundation to play with. And then this is the external brand assets, which, I mean, that's what it looks like. And then copywriting, so keywords and sayings, stylistic approach. I've had some hashtags in my brand guide, things like this. And then share-worthy kind of notes. So I've identified key things that my brand should always be rotating through and created like pillars. So education, promotion, gardening tips, community members, things like that, you know, I said was important for the brand. And music, we talked about music, what a playlist would be like at my event. Okay, I'm gonna quickly look over. In the PDF, I kind of have my information here. If you're interested or have questions about brand guides, your character, your brand avatar rather, or anything like that, you can always reach out to me and I'd be happy to support you either just through strategy sessions or if you're looking for someone to help you legitimately create that or lay out that document in such a way. So I'll just kind of stop sharing because that's the end of my presentation. And I think I saw a question here. Perfect, thank you. Okay, does anyone else have any questions?
It's a good time to ask, guys.
I have a question.
Yeah.
That was like amazing too, by the way. Like you just presented like no big deal. Here's my brand guide, and it's like whoa. Like where did you start doing that? Like, did you start with like, you know, your general market research, and then you kind of crafted those elements, like pulling all different things together, or like what kind of process did you use to make that?
Yeah, so almost like each area has like little tools and tricks you can kind of work towards to fill that area. I think the best thing is like understanding your mission and, you know, outlining what's important for your business to project to your customer. And then even for things like my ideal customer, I did market research. I kind of identified and talked to my ideal customer. Or if you have customers, like do a survey and ask them some of those questions and you'll start to get a sense of like an overarching segment that you can start to see, patterns that you can start to see and take notes and then document them. This document that I've created, I've definitely had iterations of it. It's in a beautiful place now, but it didn't always look like that. It looked like a Word document with a lot of scribbles and excerpts and things like that. So it takes a little bit of time, but yeah, you definitely want to have that strategy and that research element a part of each segment. And then listen to your customers as you engage. You might be off, and then you come back and you update it. I don't know if that was too broad or if that answered your question. Jana?
That's good. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for asking.
And that builds off a lot, Katelyn, that we've been talking about in the past few weeks. So I love it. Looks like Tracy has a question too.
Yes, Tracy.
I do have a question. I'm having a hard time like formulating it like in a concise manner. But okay, so we did like the branding avatar, and my branding avatar is a single bachelor man working his butt off, and we are a family with 2 boys. And I'm just trying like, so in our pitch we have like a family run business, and like so that kind of clashes together. Like, should we not incorporate that into our business, or should we keep it separate to keep it like high quality and like not messy with the family? I don't know.
So are you speaking that like your brand avatar is in conflict with who you are as a person? Like
I feel
you
like
are in real life?
sort of, but not really. Like, he just doesn't have a family to like make all the messy like time management things that comes into having 2 small boys during COVID. So
Okay, yeah, no, that's okay. Like I said, your character could be completely, your brand character is whoever you want them to be. You might have to do a little bit more research and understanding and making sure whoever's running the business understands kind of like what those difficulties are, what those challenges are, things like that. But I don't think there's anything wrong in it not being direct reflection of who your business partner is or things like that.
okay, I'm having a hard time with it, but yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
I'm happy to continue the conversation. Definitely. Yeah, it's definitely a balance in getting to know your brand avatar and like identifying some of those things and trying to like put yourself in their shoes. Fiora is not me either. She really is who I aspire to be, or maybe one day will become. So it's okay if they're a little bit more of like that imaginary friend that represents your business and isn't your lived experience. Again, it's more important that it resonates with your target audience and that they would be able to connect with them on a personal level as if they were best friends.
Yeah, because we're doing like business to business. So I feel like that's probably why I'm trying to do like that persona or that avatar like kind of comes to mind, because businesses, I feel like other businesses maybe won't take us seriously if we put on that like family like look or feel, I guess. I don't know, maybe not.
You want to make sure that your persona is, again, like your persona is going to be an internal document. So it should make sense for you to be able to connect with themes and like realize, okay, our persona is a family man. There are other family man entrepreneurs out there. So what kind of conversation would they have? What is your business bringing to the table that is different than what other business? Like, it sounds like very niche and like a really cool target audience that you've identified there.
Yeah, true, very true.
So yeah, I would definitely work with that, but I would say you're gonna have kind of that fun part of really crafting your character and being able to, it feels abstract now to put yourself outside of yourself and come up with that character, but afterwards, when you are kind of thinking of that character as a separate entity, it gives you permission to do so much more like outside of yourself.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
We have time for maybe one more question, guys.
Okay.
Unless you have to go, Katelyn.
Nope, I'm here for you.
Any others?
We did brands research. We usually did at least 5 to 7 person profiles. Do you know if those person profiles were for your customer or for your brand? Because that's kind of, I believe Maria said that.
Yeah, big difference between those, Maria. Customer, right?
Yeah. So how can your how could your brand avatar connect with all 7 of those profiles? Where is the common ground, right? If you have a large audience like that, or large different segments to kind of pick at, where's the commonality of your a persona that resonates with all of those. If you've already done that project, I would pull that up and kind of, you could reverse engineer it. There might be tips, you know, you might have said, you know, persona number one loves going to the beach and you're a towel company. Well, I mean, maybe there's some cool parts there that you can connect. My examples are so cheesy, guys. I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm not coming up with better ones today. But yeah, I see. Thanks. You're welcome. Yeah, so you can reverse some of the assignments that you've likely already done throughout your LEAP experience and come up with some clarity as to who your brand personality is. And like I said, what's their favorite music? That's going to be the music that's playing in your shop or your boutique or whatever, right? So have fun reverse engineering that.
I have to say, Katelyn, I really liked, oh, it looks like we have another question, but I just want to comment, in your brand guide, I loved the, almost like the slider bar kind of that you had there, where it has different personality traits. I have to say, when you originally, when I was looking at that, when we had our, one of our first meetings, I was like, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen added into a brand guide before, because it really does help you start to get a true sense of what that personality is really quickly. I definitely suggest you all maybe give that a try. And these questions have been really awesome. I went through this for a client of mine that I'm working with, and I tried to use like their personality to see like how I would be with what I thought about their brand. I'm intrigued to like take the questions you sent and give them to them and see if we were on the same page. So really awesome that to get kind of this insight from you and your process and be able to share that with us. I really do appreciate your time and all that you've shared with us today. Thank you so much. Oh, it looks like, I'm sorry, we have 2 questions, I think, still. So we'll let those go. Okay, it's 2. We have our next speakers coming in a second. I'll just message them, but I want to give you guys time to ask questions. So go for it if it's a quick one.
Okay, I see Say Cheese Studio is asking, can you explain the relationship between Fiora and yourself in your business? So myself, I recently discovered foraging. Foraging is still new to me, and foraging is the experience in the community that I want to attend. I want to learn more about. I am not a herbalist. I am not an expert in foraging. So Fiora is that character of she can go out on walks and hikes and harvest kind of different things and know how to prepare it in a beautiful way. She's the one that takes the time out of her day to enjoy the process of connecting with nature. I still have to force myself to go for walks from time to time, even though I know the benefits and the joy that I get from it. I guess Fiora is a little bit more that aspiration of the lifestyle that is so intriguing and so interesting to me. I would see myself a little bit more like the ideal customer as opposed to me and Fiora being the same person. I hope that gave you a little quick answer. Yes, you're welcome.
And then Steve and Janon, you guys have one more question?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was kind of answered, but more so I was just thinking like, as a comment, like it might be hard to think of them separately when like you're just one person starting your business, whereas for us, because we have multiple family members all working on this, like we can all kind of get on the same page about who our brand is. So from that perspective, it's like really helpful because it's sort of what would Fiora do? Like everyone can ask that question. It's not like, oh, what would Janon do? What would Steve do? And come up with like 4 different answers. Like, I like that it helps with like the consistency. So anyways,
yeah. And that's the goal is like anyone, like you hire staff in, I don't know again what your business is, but you hire staff in three months. You can hand them this brand avatar and they can run with it. They can run with social media content. They can run with writing a newsletter. They can run with, and they just get it that much easier because it is, again, it's not about understanding your business partner. It's not about understanding your boss, and well, my boss likes this, right? I don't know, I've worked for companies like, oh, this is what my boss would like, not necessarily what my clients would like, right? So give yourself permission to get to know your brand avatar and start to create your brand personality from there. And again, thank you all for having me. I want to be respectful for the next person's time. But it was really an honor to connect with you all and share a little bit into my process. And I hope it can all be useful to you.
Thank you so much, Katelyn. We really do appreciate it. And I hope that some of you reach out to Katelyn and keep this conversation going. And I think I'll be seeing you tomorrow at the session with Justin and the rest of the crew. So I'm looking forward to seeing you again tomorrow, Katelyn.
Likewise. Thanks again, David, and have a great rest of your afternoon, continuing to learn and apply. Bye, guys.
Thanks. Everybody give Katelyn a nice leap junction. Goodbye. Thank you, Katelyn. Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye. Awesome. All right, guys, let's take a 2-minute body break. And when you come back, we will have James and Kendra with us to go into our next session. I am going to just open up a breakout room because I know they have to have some stuff set up. So I'm going to pop you guys in there and I'll bring you back in once they are ready. Oh my goodness. There we go. Hi.
Hello.
All right, let me let these two guys in here. There we go.
We're still recording also. Just
Okay. Oh, thanks.
Enjoy the outside. Look at you.
All right. Welcome back, everybody. Please, if you have your screen off, can you give us a signal that you're there? A little thumbs up or shoot us in the chat. Just want to make sure the majority of you are back. Okay. Hello, hello. Awesome. Looks like pretty much everybody is here, which is great. As you can see, we have two pretty cool individuals popped on your screen right now. And I'm going to pin you guys so we can see you. Haha, there we go. So this is James and this is Kendra, and they are joining us for our second session around branding and content marketing. Now, some of you may have met them, not sure, but for those who don't know, I'm going to do a quick little, intro here. So Kendra is a fellow Fanshawe College staff member, but she's also marketing manager, an entrepreneur, and an event manager, and just an all-around pretty cool human being. And Kendra has a big love for community collaboration and strategic creative campaigns. And she works in our reputation and brand management department as an account manager. But also you can find her all around town promoting local events, when those local events are happening, as a co-founder of her organization called Poster. Kendra, thank you so much for joining us. And everybody give Kendra a nice Leap Junction hello and wave.
Guys, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. Now, James, he's a pretty cool cat as well. James is creative director, graphic designer, and community storyteller. And James has a background in fine arts and a love for how the little things add up. When he's not helping clients with their branding, you can find him writing about his hometown through his organization called The Localist, collaborating on place-based projects with Good City Co., and also chowing down with the Forest City Pizza Club, or twiddling his thumbs as president of the Boredom Society. Links to all these organizations are found on FOL if you guys want to check those out. James, thank you so much for joining us. We really, really appreciate both of you being here today. And with that, the floor is yours, guys. You can share your screen. You should have the ability to do that. Take it away.
Right on. I will jump into sharing my screen here. Good old classic. Here we go. Somebody give me a thumbs up. You got the test pattern. Yeah, we're looking good. Awesome. Well, welcome. If we do have any issues with sound or anything, let me know. I've got my backup headphones here because I have seemed to just time things right that every other presentation I do, these headphones don't have me, but they are a bit superior. So no, yeah, hello, good afternoon. Welcome to have everybody here. My name is James. This is me, unphotoshopped, original laser background. Yeah, I wish every photo that I've used that on since wasn't photoshopped, but this is the original. But part of the slide didn't load, so I'm gonna just show anyway because I don't know what's going on there. What the heck? They're like, none of them are loading. You guys see that?
Yeah,
that's weird.
Do you want me to share your slides?
I also
Yeah,
can do it.
Okay.
Yeah, can you do it? That's strange. Yeah, Kendra, why don't you take over?
It's okay.
Year and a half.
We always have some type of technical difficulty, so this is definitely not.
Seriously, you guys saw that one, right? Just Google. Thanks, Google. But, anyway, the slides come up are just basic slides of introduction that Dave already did, so it's all repeating itself anyway.
Did you? You may have to hit present first. Oh, there it goes.
There we go.
Holy cow. Here we go.
Coming up.
Is that working?
No.
You may have to reshare your screen again.
I do see your notes.
Confidential documents here. Careful.
This is fun. Is everybody having a great time? Aha.
Hey, there we go. Test pattern. Back up.
All right.
Success.
Yeah, that's all good.
Okay. Sorry, guys.
Hey, no worries. So basically just, yeah, my name is James. I had a sweet laser background in grade 6 or whatever. Right now, as Dave mentioned, I just do a bunch of things, including website, working a little bit on the Boredom Society and the Forest City Pizza Club, which are just kind of two fun things that I've been kicking around with, hoping for this pandemic to end so that we can actually do some stuff together. Eating pizza in the park sounds like a blast, and Forest City's got a lot of good pizza, right? I've also got a little 1.5-year-old here that I'm kind of chasing around. I think next slide there, Kendra. Oh. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, this guy, been chasing him around a lot lately. He's a cutie, a lot of fun. And you'll probably hear him in roughly 15 minutes to half an hour when he wakes up from his nap. And currently in the middle of moving, so we have all the house kind of shut down, and my office is no longer here. So yeah, that'll be wilder. Cool. Yeah, that's me. Kendra, I don't know if you want to introduce yourself.
Do I?
No. You match these flowers.
I feel like right now I don't have, oh wait, no, I'm figuring it out. It's fine. There's a reason I delegated James to do this to begin with. Anyway, sorry. My name's Kendra, and I am, full of working at home right now, but it's all basically Fanshawe at this point. But I do work with James on the Localist newsletter happening every week. And in this fun picture, you can find me in a crowd of marketing folks at Fanshawe, which I'm sure some of you guys would know and like these faces as I do. But yeah, so I'm working on the Localist, and at the same time sort of putzing about with my side hustle, which is poster, but there are, as you know, very few events going on right now. So it's just kind of in the background. And this is our little logo that James did, which is pretty awesome. So that's us.
Yeah, it's a dynamic duo. It's been a lot of fun working on the Localist. If you guys are looking for things to do in London, the local.ist, right? www.thelocal.ist. And we've done a lot of kind of crazy newsletters every week. If you go forward there, Kendra, we've got, I think we've got a couple examples of the weird things we've done, including, yeah, next slide. Places we don't visit enough. Non-standard indoor athletics was pretty interesting, including some underwater hockey is lower down in the list. kind of interesting. And I always like doing the lists of other lists. There's a lot of people chronicling cool things to do in London, so we definitely don't have the corner on that market at all, nor do we really care to. But we do have the corner on hiding a Ryan Gosling GIF in every single one. We're up to 137 now, and there has been a GIF of Ryan Gosling in every one. And I think maybe 6 people have noticed. Even though every year at Christmas, we send a massive Christmas gift to everyone. And we say, here's, you know, the 52 Ryan Gosling gifts that were here last year. And still like 6 people have noticed. So anyway, a lot of fun there. Next slide. Yeah, so okay, rest in peace, Alex. But I thought we'd kind of kick off with you know, a bit of a game. Do we have anybody up for, you know, a bit of an art challenge? Yeah, feel like going for it? Okay, Kendra, take us to the next slide here. What we are looking for is the artist name. Yeah, yeah, next one there. Just a little thing I did a while ago. So looking for the artist name or the artwork's title. Okay, we got some emoji art coming up. So let's see the first one here. Bonus points if you know both, and no cheating, please. Okay, you can do it. I know you can. Artist name. Okay, anybody?
Do you want it in the chat or unmute themselves?
Oh, you can just unmute yourself and shout it out first person. Who's got it? Oh, Da Vinci Last Supper. Boom. Done. Got it. Nice work, Elizabeth. There we go. All right, next up. Watching this chat. I get the chat open so I can see. Anybody? Anybody? Going once, going twice. Oh, hard time hearing me? Let me see. Does that sound any better if I moved it closer to my mouth? CG Studio, can you hear me any better? Can anybody else hear me? Sounding good? Okay. Yeah, the guy's touching ceiling painting. That's pretty much the exact name. Hit it up. It's top of the, yep, Sistine Chapel. The Birth of Man, I believe it's called. Okay, this one. Big hint here, there's one ear visible. Okay, next slide, come on, someone's got this. There we go, Van Gogh, one of the first selfies. By the way, missed opportunity that we don't spell selfie, C-E-L-L, F-I-E, you know, anyway. Okay, next up. New York, 70s, anybody? It's Warhol. Warhol's famous canvas suit. All right, next up, we got a few more here. Bit newer. These don't last that long. The mask is kind of apropos, eh?
Ah, big time.
Yeah, I feel like Rachel just yelled the answer. You yelled the answer on mute. Did you have it?
I don't know if I'm right. Banksy, you just said it doesn't
You
last
got
for
it.
long. Okay,
You got
yes.
it. You got it. There we go. Nice work. Nice work, everybody. And Alex, we miss you. Awesome. All right, so thanks for warming up here. Yeah, so good talk about branding, graphic design, and content marketing today. So basically, we're talking about how to talk about yourself and look good at the same time. Should be a lot of fun. I'm going to kick it off with branding, take a little break, then I'll continue on with graphic design, and then we will slide into you know, content marketing with Kendra. I'm going to keep an eye on the time here. It's 3:15 cutoff right there, Dave.
We have right until 4, but yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right. Okay. So, I mean, both Kendra and I are pretty happy with being interrupted too. So if you have questions along the way, feel free to just shout or raise your hand. I know as presenters, it's not always the easiest to see the chat and the presenting and what's going on. So don't worry about talking over us if you want to ask a quick question. It won't throw us off at all. But yeah, so yeah, going into branding. Next slide. Yeah. What's art got to do with it? So kind of we started with art because I think the job of the artist, let's go to the next slide there, is to observe, whereas the role of the designer is to respond to the world out there. And I think as entrepreneurs, you're all here because you are doing a bit of both. You have looked out in the world, You are seeing what's going on and you've seen the need and you're responding. That's kind of, where your entrepreneurial spirit is kicked in. So if you don't consider yourself an artist or a designer, as an entrepreneur, I would argue that you got a bit of both in you there. So I would love to meet some of you in terms of what you're doing business-wise, but the trick is we'd love for somebody to introduce somebody else. So if somebody out there wants to share about somebody else's business and answer kind of these 3 questions, what's the need that they're meeting? How are they uniquely meeting it? And what feedback have they received and where as to how it's going? Does anybody feel like it's okay to go wrong here? How long have you guys been together now?
This is the beginning of week 5.
Oh, week 5. Okay. So you've been together enough to kind of get to know what's going on, but maybe not fully everything fleshed out yet. So does anybody want to step out there and quasi-confidently tell me about somebody else's business, what need they're meeting, how they're uniquely meeting it, and what feedback they've received?
Don't all rush at once. Come on, guys. You know each other by now.
Okay, I can go.
Thank you, Tracy.
I also have a baby, so he might scream or holler. You might hear him in the background. But
all right.
Just so you heads up before you hear a huge scream. So I'm thinking of Steve and Janan. I've heard their pitch quite a few times. And their need is they need to have clients once they have a store open. How do they uniquely meet it? Well, and they're trying to display a transparency to like where your dairy, milk, and products come from. And so they'll be providing transparency through the store. And then what feedback have you received and where? Well, I believe they're working on a survey, and they also have they're thinking about opening an Instagram to show the progress of the store. So they'll be able to pull through Instagram, possibly if they go that route.
Very cool. And that was Steve and whose business was that?
Steve and Janan.
Steve and Janan. Awesome. Cool. Anybody else? That's exactly the kind of feedback question answers we're looking for.
I can talk about Tracy's then, because we've been in the same group, so we've heard hers too. So Tracy is a photographer, videographer, and does live stream events, or she live streams other people's events. So the need, I guess, is like with COVID, people are doing these like online events more. Like I think they're doing business to business, so it's like for other businesses that need their events live streamed. And they do it uniquely because they have like a lot of specialized equipment. Like she was telling us that they had to go to Toronto to get all this microphones and like different stuff that you can't get around here necessarily right now. It's hard to source. And the feedback, I think so she's been like working on picking the customer segments and kind of like figuring out who her target like what businesses are her targets, which I think has sort of been other small businesses that are like in the local area. So I think she's working on refining that part of it.
Oh, James, I think you're muted.
Anybody else? Got time for one more. That's great. Thank you. No? Okay. Well, we'll get there. All right. So let's talk about branding. Let's go to the next slide there, Kendra. Perfect. Start with basically how to talk about yourself. So anybody kind of, when you're thinking about branding, you think you got it, and they're like, I don't know if I do, right? So kind of the first definition of brand that I really appreciate comes from David Ogilvy, who's kind of, one of the grandfathers of, Mad Men era branding. But he basically defines a brand as the intangible sum of a product's attributes: its name, packaging and price, its history, its reputation, and the way it's advertised, right? So it's kind of all together. Terry O'Reilly, I don't know if anybody's heard O'Reilly on advertising or Under the Influence or whatever he calls it now. I swear that podcast has changed names 5 or 6 times. Anyway, he calls a brand basically the opinion of others about you. So I like to kind of take those two together, and when you kind of look at it like that, I think we can understand a brand as kind of what we tell the world and how the world hears us. Another way of saying that would be, it's what we promise and how we deliver. And then kind of a third way to bring it all together, it's the expectations we set and then the expectations that we meet. So I think when you look over kind of all of those, what you're seeing is this idea that brands really are two-sided. So you can do a lot to create some branding, but just as much of the definition of your brand is how it's how the public perceives it and how they understand it. So we got good old Peggy here. I think if you're looking for some ingredients to a good brand, because we've got the two sides of the coin to kind of pay attention to, it really makes a lot of sense to work on these 3 things when you're kind of working on defining your brand. Being simple, being clear, and being honest. They really make a big difference. When it comes to simplicity, if you go to the next slide there, Kendra. Yep. I think what we're looking at, if you look at some of the biggest brands in the world, Starbucks, in a couple words, it's your coffee, your way. I mean, over the years, they've done a bit of this, a bit of that. Coca-Cola, same thing. I mean, the world's drink, they are like hands down, aside from water, it's the world drinks Coke. Basically, they even had that big, late 70s, I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony, right? They just totally went all in and say, yeah, we are going for world domination. And Apple, over the years, they've changed as well. But when you look at them, they are essentially creative technology for everyone. It used to be, we just work, it just works. Computers made easy, but now they're really leaning into this whole idea that it's creative technology that is available to grandparents and their grandkids, right? Everyone in between, professionals, amateurs, all of that. And so,
question here in the chat.
Oh yeah.
From Josh.
Oh, there we go, Josh. Could you also define your brand as your business's personality?
Yeah, that's how I've always defined it in my head, but I'm not sure if it's controversial or not.
Yeah, I think when it comes to the whole personality of a brand, people are going to. This is where the subjective and objective kind of gets into it. It is how you talk about yourself, but then because it's also how people perceive that, you're going to find that different people will have a different idea of what your brand's personality is. So I think you could easily define a brand as your business's personality, but then you could talk to 5 or 6 different people and they might all have a slightly different version of that personality, how they perceive it, because they're going to glom onto certain different things. Just as multifaceted as we are as people, brands are taken in many different ways. And it takes a lot of years and a lot of work to get kind of as singular as Starbucks, Coke, and Apple kind of have become. And even then, you're going to find all of those places have kind of niched out. Some people are going to, the brand of Starbucks to them is, a community space where they can just go and do their homework. And it's less about the brand of Starbucks isn't their coffee, however you want it. It's actually the environment there. Coke might just be, for others, nothing but the drink, and they're just this big corporate machine that is just kind of taking over the world and stealing all the water, right? And with Apple, same thing. It's a diluted brand that used to do one thing really well, and now it does a lot of things a bit better than most, but a whole bunch of things. So I think it is helpful to think of your brand as a personality, but when you think of the people and how your friends even respond to that person differently, it's a good thing to know that no matter what you put out, what comes back to you tells you as much about that otherwise. Is that helpful at all, Josh?
Yeah, I think so. It's still kind of up in the air for me, but I think time will tell.
Definitely. We do talk a bit about time later on. Also, I apologize. The best way to make eye contact for me is I look off the screen because I've got this giant screen here. I wonder if I'm just going to move this so when I'm talking to you guys, I'm not looking away.
I've gotten used to it. Sometimes you can tell when people respond and they look a different direction. It's weird.
It's the worst. Like I say, I normally have a different setup but we're in the middle of moving. So anyway, clarity. So yeah, so simplicity is gonna help you out. If you can just always think, how can I make this more simple? When it talks to clarity, does anyone want to try and read this? Don't bother. Okay, this is how I found someone online, a fairly large organization, how they talk about themselves, and I was just like, basically, this is all I heard was just blah 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 blah. If you go to the next slide, right? Like there is like way too much there. You know, there's not much. So I thought, okay, how do you make yourself clear? Before I get into making yourself clear, there is a place for writing more, but it's less and less that you need to write this much, right? So I'm not saying always write small and always write less. The argument is for clarity. And if you can say all of this a bit more clearly, then do so. Most of the time that will be shorter, but the goal is clarity. The goal isn't brevity, right? So even though most of the time being more clear will be fewer words, the goal isn't fewer words. The goal is just clearer. So in this, I looked and I said, okay, what are they really trying to say in each of these sentences, which is really just one sentence? So what are the main points of this sentence and how can we say this different? And kind of this is what I came up with right here, is this whole idea that if you go to the next slide, you know, Canadian art for Canadians yesterday, today, and tomorrow, right? It's a bit more snappy, makes a bit more sense. It's still one sentence with a semicolon in there, but if you compare the two side by side, yeah, you're gonna basically get this. Oh, no, Siri, I can't. Siri and Siri are very close to one another. Anyway, so yeah, you can see there, you know, way more clear. It actually does say the same thing. So if you can go for, you know, make it clear, simple, it's going to make a big difference. The final one is honesty. Another big ingredient for building a brand is just being honest. I think, anyway, I was really happy about that one. Anyway, if you go to the next slide there, no other way, I think. Brand awareness, yeah. Honesty, I think I missed a couple slides there, but anyway, the more honest you can be, the better. You know, it's fairly common these days to be caught when you're being dishonest. And there was a time back in the day where you could get away with it. Not that I would ever argue, oh, if you can get away with it, go with it. I'm just saying there was a time where people would try and get away with things, and they did get away with things, and they had success for a while, and then they were found out, or just because they were being dishonest, the expectations weren't met and the brand fell apart. But you don't even have the choice really these days to try and be dishonest, right? Aside from the ethics of it, it's not going to last, right? People are going to find out what you're being dishonest about way quicker, and they're going to spread that news way faster, and it's the number one way to take your brand. So if you are working on building a brand and you are just trying to be clear, and you're trying to be simple, and you're trying to be honest, that is going to take you way further than confusing things with more words in hopes that they don't see what you're really trying to do, right? So kind of keep that. When it comes to brand awareness, I'll toss this one over to you, Kendra. Got some proof points to prove your points.
Yeah, for sure. I just wanted to add a note on brand awareness because it kind of answers the question of what are other people saying about your, in Josh's words, personality, but in this case, a brand. And it's really important because once you have a good concept of your brand, where do you take it in the next steps? And so commonly businesses and organizations will have kind of laid out, I would say 3 to 5, what we call proof points, which are 3 to 5 kind of aspects of how people talk about your brand. So I work for Fanshawe, and as many of you may have heard, we commonly get known as Funshawe, which is not like a great thing because we don't want to be totally about parties, but there is something good in there about what people say about student experience at Fanshawe. There's a lot of social engagement opportunities. There's Leap Junction. There's like all these kind of student service engagement pieces that make like Fanshawe pretty great. And so one proof point that we've used in the past that is a brand awareness point is that Fanshawe has the best student experience around, which is true based on surveys that we've taken. Other things that we might talk about that people say about franchise, that we have guaranteed residence. And this is an opportunity to say something about your brand that you want other people to know you for. So at Fanshawe, we get a lot of students from outside of the London area and they need a residence. And so we offer guaranteed residence for full-time first-year students who are domestic. And that's like a selling feature for Fanshawe, but it's something that we want other people to say about us. And so brand awareness is about kind of knowing your brand and then taking it to the next step. And how do you want other people to talk about you? And so for Fanshawe, I have something, I think I have a top 10 list, honestly. And these are things that I kind of say, I'll kind of plug in different areas around the website. I'll make sure it's on our social media. If somebody asks me to do a general Fanshawe ad, I'll put at least one of these proof points in there because I kind of want to change the conversation and make sure people know that this is what I want them to think of when they talk about Fanshawe. So that's kind of an overview of brand awareness, but it's something to start thinking about for your own businesses. What are the top things that you want people to be saying about your product or service? Is this making sense, James?
Unmuting way down in the corner there. I got half a word out and then I noticed. Yeah, no, actually, it's a great point to make. If you go to the next slide, in terms of things that you want people to talk about, these are really the things that are going to stand out the most in terms of, like, you know, what is the need that your business is meeting? And when Kendra's talking about the need for, you know, here is how I want to change the conversation, there's a different need that we're actually meeting that people aren't totally picking up on, but there's something under the surface there. And, you know, how are you uniquely meeting it? You know, what is setting you apart? And then all of that she's aware of because she's listening to feedback and it's coming through for, you know, from different channels, right? So kind of, you know, having these proof points allows you to always kind of focus in on these three questions, which leads me to, you know, Tracy and Janan, is it? Am I saying that right?
Janan.
Janan, okay. If I can put the two of you on the spot for a moment, can you go to the next slide, Kendra? If you don't mind, if you're like, oh no, don't put them on the spot, we can skip it. But I was wondering, you guys have been in each other's groups, you've heard each other's pitches. When the other person was sharing about your business, was there anything that sounded like a little off? Not wrong, because we're still working through stuff, but was there anything where you're like, oh, maybe if I said this more simply, or if I said that more clearly, or if a bit more honest? The opposite, I should have said earlier, the opposite of honesty isn't always dishonesty. It's sometimes just leaving stuff out or not be as transparent as possible. But when you two were listening to the other person talk about your venture, was there anything that kind of like, oh, that's interesting, I hadn't heard someone pick up on that before? Was it pretty bang on?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, like Tracy was really talking about like the transparency aspect, I guess, of our business in terms of we're going to be selling dairy products made by our own cows. So we've talked about that a lot, and it sounds like that piece like was what she remembered. So I know we've talked about like multiple things, but it's interesting to note like the one thing that stood out that she then told me about my business, like that she remembered, if you know what I mean. Like,
yeah. Tracy, was there anything that you heard?
So I'm actually going to say kind of the same thing. Was like the specialized equipment. Like we have mentioned it, but it wasn't really, and we do have it in our pitch now, but it was something that we kind of left out at the beginning. And so it was kind of nice that like she like remembered that like we went to Toronto and like that information that like we have specialized equipment, I didn't think was going to come through, but did, which was kind of cool.
Interesting that you both picked up on number 2, which is what makes you both unique. So you each are like, oh, when I was explaining the other person's group, I went to exactly what's unique. One was specialized, and other was like your specific cows, right? So that's kind of cool that the two of you are kind of honing in on that aspect there, because there are many people trying to meet a lot of the needs out there. I mean, I'm sure some of you, I don't know all your businesses, I'm sure some of you are breaking into new markets where there isn't anyone trying to meet that need, and you're going to have a lot of fun there for sure. But for most of us, the needs that we're trying to meet, there's a lot of other people trying to meet them as well. And sharing then how you can be unique in meeting that need is meeting that need. Yeah, is a great thing. Cool. That's super exciting. I think we got 4 kind of rapid fire branding tips. Should have started this whole thing off with a Giphy of someone drinking from a fire hose. Kendra and I did this last year too, and we just want to like give you guys tons of stuff to think about, cover a bunch of this, and then we're good for as much Q&A as you want after, and we're both pretty good with emails after the fact as well. We've kind of, I don't know, it seems to have gone over well the past couple of years taking this fire hose approach, but there's a lot here. So these 4 more kind of branding tips. Know thyself. Socrates said that, and I say be yourself, right? So this is kind of one of those things is, take the time to learn what makes you unique. That is a huge selling point these days. It is the #1 differentiator that you have that no one else does. It's who you are, and that is you being you as a business, but also you as a person. If you're in a business that you are spotlighting yourself as well, it is. I know a lot of people, especially in town here, some past leapers even, who do a great job of, I don't want to say selling themselves because that sounds cheap, but their personality, like their actual personality, is very much tied in with the brand that they do. Cindy O'Baron with the Cobb Shop does a great job of that. Elena Ricklick does a good job of that with Soft Flirt. Even Andre does a bunch of that too with his work too. So they're in taking the time to learn what makes you unique and your business unique, both of those aspects, like you and your business, that really makes a big difference. So #1, #2, be yourself. So same thing. Don't try and be somebody else. Don't try and, a lot of us look in the mirror and we see what we're trying to become. And there's nothing wrong with trying to become something bigger and something better and something different. But be who you are right now and be that person and be that business trying to get to the next step. If you come off as if you're already a 5-year-old or a 10-year-old business, really you've only been doing it for a 1.5 years, there are just things that you won't have learned yet. There are things that you are not going to go so well if you're trying to be a business or a person that you're not. I do think fake it till you make it does work in small steps and in little things. There's nothing wrong with being aspirational, and there's nothing wrong with working toward these. But if you project all these things onto the world through your branding and you're not quite there yet, unless you got a ton of hustle and a lot of help and are willing to burn yourself out pretty quick, it's not going to be sustainable. So, know yourself, know what makes you unique, and then be yourself. And part of who you are right now is someone and a business that you're trying to go somewhere else. So that doesn't mean you're stuck with however you are now. You can like this dude here. I'm sure maybe 8 months of work, he's gonna be ripped like that. But like right now, it's not quite that yet. Right. So keep those dreams alive and keep looking for the future and where you're going. But don't spend more time talking about where you're going than where you are right now. #1, yes, we've got know yourself, got be yourself, and #3, deliver. So just deliver. Like if you meet the expectations that you set first, that's great. Exceeding is exhausting. There's nothing wrong with exceeding. It's wonderful. But if your goal is to always exceed expectations, you are going to not meet a bunch of other expectations. Because what you're going to do is you're going to have certain clients or certain customers or certain things that just as a human, you've got some sort of internal judgment system going where you're like, I want to exceed this person's expectations. And it's okay if I pour my extra energy into this person's work, even though this person's work will suffer a little. If you set your baseline as meeting expectations and you find yourself with extra time, then you can go and exceed expectations. But I always, encourage people to like focus and set up your work routine and set up your business and set up the branding and everything on meeting every expectation that you set. So if you say, we do this, make sure you do it. And if you say, we're going to be doing this, make sure that you have a timeline for when you're going to be doing that. And then when you've got a little extra time while you are working on that one project and you can do something to personalize, or you can do something to blow that customer away and exceed their expectations, that's amazing and that's great. And you should totally jump on that opportunity. But if you make exceeding the goal, you are going to exhaust yourself, especially starting out as entrepreneurs. If you build this business for a couple of years and you start bringing on more staff, you can actually dedicate people to meeting expectations and dedicate other people to exceeding them. But by yourself, trying to always exceed is just, I've seen too many people fall over doing that. So
Yeah.
be careful of that one.
I think that's a really good point, because people can spot a fake a mile away, and you want to really be known for the things that you are doing well. And so when I mentioned proof points earlier, those are things you're doing well and that you can promise to people. And then once people experience that for themselves, they'll get to know you for those things. And they're fluid. Your brand isn't necessarily fluid, but those proof points are. And as you begin to add different services and different unique personalizations, like James mentioned, then those become your further proof points. And then you try to drive those home. And it's just like repetition and repetition on the things that you deliver on are what is going to result in loyalty and brand preference from your customers. So that's a really good point. Just jumping in.
Always, Kendra. Always welcome. All right, number 4, keep it simple and stupid, right? I put stupid in quotes. It's slightly demeaning and I don't mean it, but hey, it's a good acronym and it's a good thing to remember. Don't overcomplicate things, right? We are like this close to everything that we're working on. We know every single detail, you know, and there's 5 fingers here and I can see all the lines in my palm and I know everything. Well, the customer out there just sees a hand, right? They're not like, oh, this is doing this and this is doing this and this is doing this. And oh, I can see, yeah, you know, all that kind of stuff. Your customers, your clients are just seeing the bigger picture. So don't overcomplicate stuff when it comes to your brand. Just here is the thing we do. Here's how we do it differently than others. Here's how we're going to meet your expectations. You're going to love it. And then, you know, pretend your elevator is full of 12-year-olds. So we did talk about elevator pitches, and I know you've been doing a bunch of work on that, because I know the program always does. If you don't have a version yet where it's either an elevator full of 12-year-olds or you're only going up a floor and a half, work on that version as well, right? So it's good to have one when you're pitching to investors. It's good to have one when you're pitching to other businesses. It's also good to have one when you're at a cocktail party or something. Well, man, are we gonna ever have those again? Anyway, it's good to have one when you're in small talk, and it is important that you get what you're doing across to somebody, but they're also kind of looking over your shoulder to see how long the lineup is to get, you know, their next drink or talk to the next person, right? So perfect. That's kind of 4 rules for branding. Do we feel like we need a quick break, or I don't know, what do you think in time wise?
How's everybody feeling? You want to forge ahead, guys? Thumbs up if you want to forge ahead.
It's just a natural break spot if we needed one, but okay, let's just keep rolling. I feel like I talk too much. Anyway, all right. So graphic design. I think we're talking about graphic designer. What? Me? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, maybe a bit. Once I get going, I just can't stop.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah, it's all
You're
right.
the Don Draper.
Yeah,
You'd love to be.
Don Draper, you know, man, he was the creative director. He talked about branding, but then we got Peggy. Peggy was all about graphic design, right? So, little crash course on graphic design here. I don't know if do we have any designers in the house or anybody that's been interested at all? Yeah.
We do, yes.
Yeah, nice. Okay, I've only got my screen right now is only showing 3 people, just so that I can actually see the slides. So, but anyway, we're going to go over graphic design. Going to go over graphic design basics. Going to look at some logos. Then I got some do-it-yourself design tips, and you know, kind of hoping to answer when you might need some help, right? So basics. The quick basics of design. And remember earlier, I defined a designer as people who respond to what artists see in the world often, right? Often an artist looks out and they see a bunch of things. Sometimes they're problems, sometimes they're opportunities, but the artist sees it. The designer will actually respond to it. They're like, oh, here's a solution to that. Here's a way to get through that. You can have artistic designers, you can have design, whatever, design focused artist, but as an entrepreneur, you got a bit of artist in you, you got a bit of designer in you. You're seeing an opportunity and you're working on a response. But when it comes to graphic design and how things are looking, we've got these principles and elements, and that's balance, proportion, emphasis, contrast, and pattern are kind of all these tools you've got in your set for principles. And then you've got color and line and shape, and texture and space are all things that play into how things look and feel. And to kind of give you an idea on how that plays out, I've got a couple examples from one of my favorite designers, Paula Scher. She has a whole episode on abstract on Netflix. So if you go on Netflix and look up abstract, there's a whole like 42-minute episode focused on her, and it's great. And I highly suggest you watch it. It's really fun. But she does these very, very simple logos that work really, really well. And I think she does it by leaning into these elements and principles. So I just wanted to kind of go through them pretty quick and let you know how they play out. When it comes to balance, the whole idea of how she did the New York Philharmonic with the baton, that's the conductor's baton, and kind of how the orchestra sits on one side and the city sits on the other side. So they're kind of playing off of each other. It's just a great example of how balance can make a logo awesome. And then proportion. One thing that Paula is known for actually is if you ever see a poster with mixed lettering sizes, that's Paula's work. She did that back in the early 80s, maybe even late 70s. And amazingly, not many people were doing it. I mean, to some extent they were doing it before, but most people that you see doing design like that these days, you could trace them back to Paula. Not to the people that she's being inspired by. They saw a Paula Scher poster or an ad. So she does this great work with proportion and just saying, hey, look, this is a simple, it's one font, and I've just changed the proportion between two, and already that's more interesting to look at than if it's whatever, the other. Emphasis, same thing. The new school logo she did, where basically the new school is the school, and they've got all these different departments, and everyone needed a different logo for this thing. So she's like, I'm just going to underline it. I'm going to put the emphasis on the departments. So this, at first when I saw it, I'm like, oh, it's a little kind of like ugly and boring. But then I saw that she's got like 27 or 28 things that all needed to look good together, and they do look great together. And also the lines, like the underline on the new school and then the other underline below that, it's actually mimicking the proportions of the like columns in the building that the new school is in, right? So there's like all these layers of stuff out there. But anyway, emphasis, she's just added color where it's most important. That's what you look at. Pretty cool. Here's the pattern with some of that proportion I was talking about. This is the style that she's most known for. But you can see how she's making these little patterns. There's a grid there, and even though things are kind of janky and going one way or going another, you can see that she's really laid things out. And even though there's tons of information, you can read each little piece of information because it's following a pattern. You know, you've got a block here, a block here, a block here, a block here. All you need to do as a viewer is just tilt your head a little bit, but it's the same amount of work in every area. Color, similar to emphasis. I mean, Shake Shack, she's like, I need to, you know, Shake Shack's known for being one of the first slower fast food. What's the term they use again? It's not slow food. It's not fast food. It's something in the middle. It's not like medium food. But anyway, there's a term for it, like a slightly healthier version of fast food. So back in the day, she's like, well, let's make the burger green because we're paying more attention to the environment as well and how we're making it. A little bit of color, I mean, highly symbolic, and it does a big difference. But really, if you know, back, it's like nobody's using green for burgers because aside from the lettuce, there's no green in a burger, right? Like it's not obvious, right? Lots of fun. Color of line, Highland Park. Oh, I could go for hours on this, so I'm going to try and keep it to 20 seconds. But this is the logo for the Highland Park in New York, which is a park built above the ground on old elevated railway tracks that they've got. So they've got like an old subway line that's, you know, second story height. So like, look, you've got this with simple lines. You've got a railway track, you've got the H for the Highline Park, and you've also got like this bridge where you're like down underneath, you've got the street, and above you've got the park. It's so simple, and like seeing it in real life, it works like really amazing too.
I love how much you nerd out on this every time.
I know. If I could do a logo that
It's a
simple,
nerd thing, I love it.
oh man, I would totally just be so happy with myself.
It's like me talking about feely paper, but anyway.
Nice. Atlantic Theater Company. Yep, simple thing here. She's just making use of shape. So this is the theater. It's all about being in spotlight. And there's also a little bit of that whole red carpet, right? So whether you're seeing a spotlight or whether you're seeing the red carpet, she's taken that shape and also changed all the A's out with that shape. So really simple, just repeating that pattern with the shape. And then texture. This look isn't as popular these days, but it does have a really kind of hand painted or hand touched way of looking at it. So you don't. Right now, we're I think we're on the edge of getting a whole bunch of texture, and like we've been dealing with minimalism for so long, I think we're heading into maximalism. Even wallpaper's coming back. So I think texture is going to be one of the next bigger things again in design. And then I think space, just basically, people talk about white space all the time, and that's just, you don't have to have everything filled to the max, right? You saw that earlier in some of her pattern work, but then she's also like, yeah, but sometimes it just calls for a lot more space, right? So some great work here for it. So that's all your principles and elements of design. So when you're either, kind of working on something yourself or working with a designer, you can feel a bit more like, okay, I see what they're going for. They know what they're talking about. Yeah, they're focusing on space in this one, or they're using a little emphasis. I like this, right? So when we're talking about logos, it's where the real magic happens, right? So a couple ingredients to making a logo work well. Size does matter. They used to say it used to have to look good on a stamp, or your logo's got to work on a billboard. It's got to work at both those sizes. These days, I like to say it's got to work on either a big screen TV or an app. I think that's the next slide there. Yeah, it's got to work on your phone, and it's got to work on a big screen TV. Logos, it's one of the things that makes logos so hard to deal with, is that people forget that they look a bit different at different sizes. So you really, when you're creating a logo, you want to look at it very small and very big. And if it works in both those extremes, chances are it works at normal size too. Another thing, it's got to look as good in black and white as it does in color. You used to have to worry about that because people were photocopying stuff and printing that off. There is much less concern that you need to have these days about having a color logo and someone putting it in black and white by mistake. But there are lots of instances where your logo will need to be black and white because it clashes with the other stuff going on. So somebody will ask for a black and white version. So if you put gradients and all these overlapping things and it doesn't translate into black and white, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So I always say make it black and white first, and then add color second. Simplicity rules. This is another Polish Era design. She's got a great story. She got paid like 10 million for this or something. It was huge. And she made it literally in 10 minutes. But the story is, like, it took me 25 years in the business to make this in 10 minutes, right? So it was like she had a napkin meeting with the client, a dinner meeting with the client to get to know each other. And yeah, and while she's in the meeting, she's like, oh, I think I know exactly what they need. And she like sketched it out. She's like, oh yeah, this is going to be it. And she had it done in 10 minutes. Now, I think she went on, the rest of the story is they had a lot of convincing to do and presenting to do to make it there. But the actual idea that she had was in 10 minutes because she knew it was a simple solution and it didn't have to be more complicated. So just as with your branding, simplicity rules for graphic design as well, especially when it comes to logos. Memorability makes a difference. Anyone want to guess what this is for? What organization?
Heart and Stroke.
Yes. Isn't that amazing? I love it, right? It's just pure genius. And once you know it, it's like, of course, that's Heart and Stroke Foundation, right? So it is memorability, even if you don't get things right away. One of the questions, I think I had a little sub point about it earlier, but if your branding and your marketing and your graphic design, if anything that you do can elicit this response in viewers or clients or customers, you're winning. And that response is tell me more, right? If they say tell me more, that's almost better than them getting it and deciding they do or don't like it, because you've got their interest, you've made it memorable. So with all those things, I think you guys can do it, right? I think you got the tools to start doing this. I'm looking forward to it. Cool. So a couple of questions. If you've got a logo that you're already working on, if it's not locked in already, take a look at it at different sizes, ask if it scales. Can you find a photocopier to photocopy it with? Compare its black and white to color and see if it's just as good in black and white as it is in color. If it doesn't quite hold up in black and white, there might be some more work to do in the foundation. Can you draw it by hand? Is it simple enough that, now I'm not saying you would draw it by hand and say, hey, this is my logo and I'm going to put it on the shirt and I can just use my hand drawing because it's close enough. Definitely don't do that. But can you, if you were to look at your logo and then someone were to take the logo away, is it memorable enough, A, that you could remember what to draw, and B, that you could actually draw it by hand? You could show someone else a picture of your logo, and then when they saw your logo in real life, they'd be able to make that connection. So feel free to test your logos like that. Feel free to ask these questions of other people's logos. You guys can at some point invite a little constructive criticism upon each other. If you feel like it, you could take the leap of trust and say, hey, tell me what you think of my logo or how it's coming along. Chances are you're still early enough in the game that if there's something that's going off or not working as well, that you can still kind of work on it. So a couple of things there. I think next, I think that's getting close to wrapping it up. Yeah, do-it-yourself design tips. Okay, rapid fire, hit it. Number one, boom, fewer fonts fare better. 1 or 2 fonts max, anytime, anywhere, whatever you're doing, unless you're going to use 27 or more than, let's say more than 18 fonts, you should only be using 2, right? So don't mix up too many fonts, it just gets too confusing. White space is your friend. It's always going to be your friend. Don't ever feel like something is too plain or, oh, maybe I should just put something here. There's like, it's just missing something. Our eyes are inundated with so much these days that anytime our eyes can take a bit of a break and are able to, the next point, focus on something, that makes a huge difference. So whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's a logo or you're laying out a brochure or laying out a website, another thing to do is to find your focus. There is going to be, 2 to 12 things that you're trying to draw people's attention to. But you need some sort of focus that if it's people are just going to look at one thing or pay attention to one thing, what is that focus? And everything else should point toward that, right? So everything's working toward that one singular message. It's supporting that singular message. And then pretend it's 1970. Man, the 70s were like a golden age of great design. Some of it's a little dated, but it works, right? The reason it seems so dated is because it's burned into your memory, even though you weren't around in the 70s, right? These logos and that look has persisted for so long because it works, right? So there's a lot of great inspiration to be found in looking up like graphic design manuals or logos from the 70s. There's a reason so many people are doing retro logos and throwbacks now. Most of them are going back to stuff from the 70s, and it was a great time where they were, paying attention. Like TV was doing well, movies were doing well, newspapers were doing well. So there were a lot of different areas where their logos had to work at different sizes. And so people really did nice, crisp, clean work that worked on a whole bunch of different mediums, which is similar to where we're heading again with all these different apps. Even though it is all screen-based, you've got your iPad, you've got your desktop, you've got all these things. So look at your 70s. Cool. And then
Fanchad's 70s though. Just for the record, if anybody wants to find Fanchad's logo from the 1970s, you will understand why we're not going back to our 1970s logo.
I don't know that one. Roughly what does it look like?
I'm not going to tell you. You're going to have to
I'm gonna find it and I'm gonna love it. Just kidding. Cool. Next up we got, don't follow trends, right? Unless you plan on only being as long as the trend is around. Don't be a trendsetter, not a trend follower, all that kind of stuff. yeah, trends come and go. They really do. And the cycle on those trends is getting shorter and shorter and shorter. So it's best to just pick a look and a feel that you like and lean into it pretty heavy. Stay in your lane or not. And what I mean by that is if you look at posters for romantic comedies versus posters for horror movies versus posters for dramas, they all look very, very similar. And that's because over the years, this visual language has developed and people are expecting that, right? So if you own like a recycling company, you're gonna have some green and blue in there, right? Chances are. I always, encourage people to either stick with what people are expecting or go completely different, right? So you've got, something that is, reusing, you've got a fashion business and you're going to thrift stores and then cutting stuff up and making it into new clothing and selling it. Makes sense to kind of have some green for recycling. Totally works, could be awesome. Or go with like a wild Argyle pink pattern that has nothing to do with recycling, just to totally stand out. So stay in your lane or don't. It's when you try and do a bit of both that it's not going to work. Sweat the small stuff. The more you sweat the small stuff in graphic design, the better you're going to get over time. When you pay attention to little stupid things like the line height, that is going to pay dividends in the long run, because you're going to get used to looking at things that look just a bit off. Could that look just a bit better? Yeah, and when you make 12 things look just a bit better, the whole thing looks amazing, right? So don't worry about the small stuff. And then fourth, know when to get help, right? There's, hopefully a lot of this stuff will help you a bit, but you may need some actual professional help at some point. Oh, Josh, I'm gonna have to check that later.
Sorry, I sent you on a diversion here.
No, it's all right. It's all good. So yeah, here's how and when to get help. So next slide. When do I need help? Chances are, next slide, I can't remember my answer. Oh, ASAP, right? You probably need help pretty close now. So a couple of things to consider that. Who do I work with? Because sometimes people are like, man, it's just too expensive, but work with a professional, right? But some people get freaked out that professionals are always super expensive. There are a bunch of different levels of professionals. So if you go to the next slide, right, there are, you can find junior designers who are just getting a start, and your business is just getting a start, and like, hey, you make a good match, so go for it. But then there are, senior designers, freelance designers that are kind of working on their own for a bit more money. They cost a bit more. As your business grows, you might want to grow the budget of your design as well. Then there's a full-on agency who's going to do an amazing job for you, but you're going to pay quite a bit for it, right? All these levels are going to get you what you need. Chances are you just might not be able to afford everything that they're able to give you at the time. So just start with what you can afford. It's going to be better than just doing it on your own. There's the sun waking up from that. Anyway, but some questions when you're trying to pick someone to help: check their process, find out how they work. Everyone works different. The best designers are designers that work in the same way as you, right? So because there's so much of design is a science, and because now you know the elements and principles of design, you can help them out. How they work is almost as important as the work that they put out. When I say check their portfolio, if their portfolio and what drew you to them was that everything, they've got like a total look that looks good, your logo is going to end up looking like all that other work, right? Which is fine if you like it. But if their portfolio is varied and looks totally different, then you know that they're totally about listening to you and making what's in your head turn into a reality, right? So it's something to pay attention to. And then check their price. See how much they're going for. And if you can afford it, go for it. If not, tell them your problems, and then tell them your budget, and then from there, just kind of tell them your dreams and see what they come up with. Here's my problem. Here's the budget I've got to work with, which is way more helpful than just telling them your problem and your dreams and then saying how much is that going to cost. Decide what it's worth to you, and then you can say, man, I want you to work for me. Go for it. But take the pressure off them for setting a budget, because it's the hardest thing to do as a designer, because we can do as much or as little work as you have budget for. We can get you way further than where you are right now a very small budget and we can get you way beyond that with the bigger budget, right? We will work to your budget to get done what needs to be done. And any agency or designer, senior, junior, worth their weight in gold will work with your budget to put you in a better place than where you are now. Great. I think that's about it for all my rambling. I think it's time we hear from Kendra. Yeah.
Does anybody need a break from looking at Temple in the Woods logos?
Want to do just like a 1-minute body break, guys?
Yeah, that sounds good. I'm gonna grab a coffee. I'm gonna grab one of these.
Awesome. Thank you, James. That was awesome. Is that your son in the background? Yeah. Awesome. Okay. We'll see you guys back in a minute. All right, guys, let us know when you're back. Thumbs up.
Kendra, you're taking the reins from here, yeah?
I sure am until the end.
I think so. It's hard because my screen's not working. I can't see ahead. In case no one else has noticed this slight technical difficulty.
So weird that Google didn't work, hey?
Yeah. Have you guys ever had that before? It just won't load slides? Like it's loading on my phone, but it wouldn't load on my desktop.
Weird.
Even though I had it open before because I added a slide. Remember the beginning, Dave? I said I added a slide?
Yeah.
We believe you.
Was it a key slide? Was it like the pinnacle of the whole thing?
You know what? It was the one that messed it up. I just added the shots of the website there. Anyway, we should do a whole presentation on technical difficulties and how you will always have to live with them. They will never go away, no matter how prepared you are.
And then when you do the presentation, it doesn't work.
Totally. It's like
presentation. It's about how things don't always work.
Exactly.
It's subversive.
Yeah, and then you make everyone wait 20 minutes before you start.
Yeah, and put a bunch of breaks in there just to like act like a nice person.
Totally.
So we're good?
Looks like we're good.
That's
good.
Okay, cool. So I'm just gonna kind of move to a bit more of a content marketing piece. So we're just gonna talk a little bit about how to talk about your product or service. And content marketing is kind of just one way that you can do that, but it is, well, it's a strategic marketing approach, shall we say. And it's very straightforward, and it's something that you can kind of be doing all the time. However, you can find different angles to do it. And so I'll just run you through a little bit about what it is. And I think it'll be pretty relevant for small businesses as well. So this is from the Content Marketing Institute, which has a lot of different resources, so you can always check that out. But it says that content marketing is basically a strategic marketing approach focused on creating and distributing valuable, relevant, and consistent content and retain a clearly defined audience, and ultimately to drive profitable customer action. So the key points here are that you're looking for valuable and relevant content when you're thinking as a consumer or a customer of yours, rather than the business owner. So what would be relevant to the user? So the thing about content marketing is that it is immersive rather than disruptive. So most marketing is disruptive. It's like you're driving down a highway and you see a billboard, or you're scrolling through Instagram or something and you see an ad come through your feed, and it stops your whole life and interrupts you with their brand messaging or their call to action. Instead, what we're looking to do is content marketing. Certainly other forms of marketing have their place, and that is where I spend the majority of my money and time. But content marketing is a really bit of a different way of looking at it, where we're looking for where your consumers already are interested and finding ways to be there. So you're trying to add value to your audience in those areas. So that's what separates content marketing from the rest. I find it really interesting. We're really interested in it at Fanshawe, certainly right now, lots of different ways that we can be providing answers for people who are looking into education, but also it's usually free. So that's great. And in the end, it actually really helps your SEO and drives a lot of traffic into your website. So that'll really help you out in that sense. And in that way, you are the expert, because you are the one who's most passionate about this product, most passionate about this service. And so you're already kind of asking these questions and you're saying, I'm the expert in this area. And so it engages your audience by providing brand preference. They're going to choose you more because they think you're the expert. And they might actually be a little bit more loyal to your product or service because, again, you are the expert. And there are ways that you can kind of work that into your messaging. So the first step to do this is once you've kind of established the why behind your brand or the proof points that we talked about earlier, you can start looking into the broader context of what is around your product or service. Why would they need this? And through Leap, I'm sure you guys are already kind of thinking about these things. And so you can start creating a dialogue around those things. And as entrepreneurs, I mean, this is your passion. And also I see a cat tail and I really quite like it. Just wanted to shout out to that. I'm just saying. So this is going to be fairly easy for you to find out where the conversation is. And then kind of be part of that conversation. So what are your target audiences interested in? What are some of the pain points that they're experiencing around your product or service? What kinds of content are they looking into? Like, what are they reading also online? And what are some of the questions that they're asking around that? Is there a confusing part of your industry that that you could sort of address in a blog post or a Facebook post or long form content on your website, something like that? And what do they need to accomplish their goals that you could help with? So a couple examples of trying to figure out what the conversation is literally just Google it. This is the secret to so many things in marketing. Just Google it. So for example, this is about Poster. And I didn't mention earlier, Poster is a poster distribution service in London. And it basically was born out of us event coordinators not having a grassroots method of event promotion around the city. And so we decided we were going to be the people who would actually put up some very fun, very creative posters around town, and people would pay us to basically put up their event posters. So there's a lot of different opportunities to engage in a conversation about poster culture and something like this. What makes a great poster? This is something that we could do a series on Instagram stories on, or something like that, where you sort of go to event organizers. What are the key elements of a great poster that you should be looking into? And that positions me as somebody who has those answers. And then maybe you will want me to put up your posters as well. So this is another great resource. It's called answerthepublic.com, and it's kind of works like a Google search, but in reverse. So you would put in your topic, and in this instance, I put in posters, and Answer the Public basically scrolls all of Google results for the common questions that people have asked about whatever topic you input. So posters, so you can see maybe a little bit like how posters are printed, when were posters first used, and you can sort of see how common those questions are. And it's just a way of starting to think about what are people asking about this topic, and it kind of gets your creative juices flowing a little bit. I use it at Fanja all the time. It's very helpful. And then position yourself as the expert. You can start using your voice and being the person who is starting to talk about these things. So this is a way that you are not necessarily pitching. Like, it's not exactly your elevator pitch, although you are the author. And so you're positioning yourself as an expert, but you're not necessarily saying like, and poster makes great posters. That makes sense? So one way to do this is stay topical and to get creative with it. You are delivering information that makes the buyer or your consumer more intelligent. You're just offering information that they're already looking for. So ultimately, there's going to be a reward there to be part of that conversation, even if it's just getting your voice out there and getting your name out there as a business. So different kind of areas that you can think about putting these in. There's anywhere you could do this. You could do social media, blogs, videos, guest posts on somebody else's website or social media feeds, webinars, games, branded content tools. You could do an ebook or a white paper, online presentation. You could do an event. You could do something in person and not digital. You could, there are like so many things you could do. There's a lot. And so it's basically, you have to figure out where your audience is and then add your voice to the mix. So I feel like I'm talking very quickly, but if you have any questions, just say something, okay? This is one example of some really good content marketing, and it's with Lush Cosmetics. I chose these few posts, and in the middle, there's one is the only one, and it's kind of the lesser of their content is about their own product. The majority of their posts on social media are actually about other things in their broader context. So they realize who are the kinds of people that like to buy from Lush. Maybe they are more interested in environmental subjects. They're interested in kind of the people and the planet rather than the product necessarily. And they're interested in some of the more social justice issues going on as well. And so that's a lot of their content. So they just add their voice to the mix, and they get a lot of great responses on Instagram, especially. So that's definitely worth looking into. Honestly, that's also a little tip, is to look and see what your competitors are doing. That's the first thing I do when clients tell me there's a need for their marketing. I'm like, okay, what is everybody else doing? Are we ahead of the game? Are we not? What are they saying? Are we part of that conversation? And then there might be opportunities there. Another fun example was last summer, which was a collaboration between The Localist, aka Kingsley. I almost said AAA, just for the record, and Poster. And we just wanted to do a poster campaign that was fun and different and kind of relevant to London. And so we made a list of 100 things that Londoners could do in London last summer. Is this making sense? That made sense?
This is a very particular summer with a very particular set of challenges. We thought, hey man, there's still got to be at least 100 ways to celebrate this city.
Totally, exactly. And it was just kind of being engaging, and it was fairly light. We did a few like wash your hands and some very niche ones as well, like read Greg Kernow's book, who is a London author, and something like that. But these were some also just really basic ones, get downtown, celebrate the small things. And we branded them, Good City, The Localist, and Poster. And we just spread them out downtown and a few other places around the city. And that was just the way, like, it's not a marketing campaign in that I didn't have a call to action. There wasn't something measurable to it that was like, get a free whatever. It's like, I'm not even a marketer. But it was just being where the conversation is happening. Oh, and you saw them around, Dave?
I did, yes. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, I know that.
They've been postering. I love that. And that's what it is. I just like being kind of out in the city and doing what we do best, you know? Were you going to say anything else, James?
No, it was really fun. It was really great to partner up with you guys, considering you had a bunch of spots around the city, and we knew we had a like a really quick way to get a big message out to a lot of people in a fun, fairly simple way.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It's just putting up posters, guys. Not rocket science. Okay, so I just want to have a little conversation. We could have done breakout rooms, but we kind of just like hearing from everybody as well. So what is the kind of conversation that is surrounding your business? What are some of the topics that people might be asking around your product or service? And then if you have any ideas, how can you add value to that? Can your voice be positioned as part of that conversation? Any ideas?
Mine is being COVID safe, like in photography, videography. How are you going to be COVID safe while shooting models or clients in general?
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, definitely. It's relevant, and it's a question that people are already asking, and they're probably looking for in addition, for sure. While you guys are thinking,
I can share something.
Go for it, please.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, I'm at a cottage this week with my dog, and my business offers apparel and home goods for dog owners. But a little thing that would add value was to make a packing list for things that I bring with my dog when I'm going places, and make a little post about something like that.
Yeah, totally. You see this kind of stuff a lot, like in a lot more and more, I think, even on social media, with more tools by the social media accounts themselves to be able to kind of type content rather than it being just visual, specifically on Instagram, I guess, for sure. Any other ideas?
Cecilia put something in the chat. She said sustainability.
Yes, definitely. And it's a big answer that people are looking for sure. It reminds me, not sustainability, but I am reminded that sometimes responding to current events, James and I were talking about this yesterday, sometimes responding to current events and current circumstances can be thought of as content marketing, but I would argue that it's not. That's just being relevant to your circumstance. That's like something that you have to do as a PR as a PR tactic all the time, is just responding to your current situation. Content marketing is more like looking to engage in conversations that are relevant to your brand, not just relevant to like the country. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Would that be like more like branding more than marketing? Like it's kind of like where your company stands in the subject matter, maybe, or no?
It's more, so branding is specific to yourself, your brand position, and where you stand as a company to your context is more of kind of a facet of communications and public relations. It's your position within the culture or the given circumstance. Do you have anything to add on that, James? I feel like that's a little bit floppy.
No, it's just it will play into your branding and it will have an effect on your branding. But I think where the impetus is a bit different, where you're coming from is, in this instance, you're definitely thinking of the customer first, and how can you add value outside of whatever your product or service is. This is adding value in a way that isn't that thing. So it's extra knowledge that you have. It's almost like freebies. Like, because I sell ice cubes, I happen to know a lot about water, but I'm not selling water, but I can still enter this conversation about water, which is related to ice cubes. Wow, does that make any sense? I mean, Rachel was saying, she makes these things for dog owners, but she's not she's not a packing consultant for people. She's not in the travel business, but because she is traveling and dealing with dogs so much, she actually has some she has some value to add to that conversation about traveling with pets, but she's not technically selling that advice, right? It's more like it will play into your brand, but it doesn't necessarily play into your product. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. It doesn't have to. It could, but it doesn't have to.
Mm-hmm. There is like content marketing is honestly not something you have to do. It's just a missed opportunity that I think a lot of people don't know about. And so honestly, it's going to be, it can only help you. Something that you do have to be thinking about all the time is your context in terms of circumstances that are happening around you, and you can decide whether you have to respond to them or you don't want to respond to them. But you have to be thinking about it. Does that help at all?
Yes. I do have a question. And I don't know if this is like, what is the conversation possibly, but like, because I'm business to business. I was talking to Dave Thursday about it, but contributing like to businesses, like providing like a link or like an area to go for funding. Like, so that's going to be part of our marketing, but I don't know.
No, that's huge.
What is the conversation, I guess? I don't know.
What is your business?
We do photography, videography, and live streaming.
Oh, that is very cool. Oh, yes, you are Tracy. Yes.
Yeah. So we're looking at like, because there's like grants and stuff for businesses for e-commerce and that kind of thing. So we're looking at like that. I think that's part of the conversation, but I feel like a lot of people are missing that mark. Like nobody's really talking about it.
Totally. That is a great example, actually, because I think a common way people do this is build up an email newsletter, especially with business to business when your clients have emails and that's how you tend to interact with them. And so sending them an email that is like how to get funding for your next virtual event or for your live streaming event. That's something that I would click through on an email to maybe a blog post on your website or something like that, something gated that you have to click through to and just like read through. Or it could be like top tips for, these are all very kind of headliney, but it could be like, how can we help you plan your next virtual event, or never planned a virtual event before, we can help you. And it is free information in that you're just sort of saying, hey, these are like 5 things that you should be thinking about. If you need help with live streaming, we're your guys. You know?
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, you're totally on the right track for sure. Once you get thinking about it, then you start thinking about other things and you can kind of come up with examples once you get going, but it can be hard to get the wheels turning for sure. So I'll just hammer these out really quickly because jokes, we thought we had like half an hour less than this, but we're going to take the whole time. So just a few things here really quickly. So just research what everybody else is doing. I said this briefly, look at the competition, see what kind of voices other people are using and how you can be part of that conversation. There might even be gaps in content that kind of your mind goes, oh, why aren't people talking about this? I could talk about this, and then start generating some content from there. And make sure that it's always relevant. So like we said, kind of at the beginning, make it valuable, make it relevant. You don't want to talk about something that is totally not you, but if you can find a string, find a little path that makes it relevant for you to maybe at the bottom of your post or whatever that is relevant on your website. One little small example here before I turn it over is on the Fanshawe blog, we wrote a post about where to head to the beach in Southwestern Ontario. And it is our highest performing post on the blog. And it kills me because it's not relevant to Fanshawe or education or like our audiences. And all the time it's our favorite example because like, it's fine. And it's good that we got traction and it's like nice to have eyes on the screen, but they're not qualified people. They're not people who might then want to be interested in Fanshawe or look into a certificate or something like that. So you want to do something that you can follow the breadcrumbs back to your brand and your product or service. And then test things out. That's a fun thing about content marketing. It's free. And I guess marketing 101 is to test everything, but especially in content marketing, just try it out and see what you get. And if you like it, keep going with something like that. You can try something different on a different channel, different topic, that kind of thing. And then keep it up. And I said on top of everything else you have to do, because I can only imagine how overwhelmed you are at this point with all you're doing with starting your business. But it's one of those things that you can just get started with. And if you have an idea, just like hammer it out and put it out into the world and see what can happen. You can really make a big difference in your brand positioning. Okay, so here's our little conclusion. We won't take too much more of your time. Hey, James. So 4 things to remember. If you only remember one thing, make it these 4 things. The first is that consistency matters. And I think that goes a little bit back to your brand promise and your brand proof points, that stay true to the brand that you have chosen and the things that you have promised to your customers that you're going to provide. And then just like rinse and repeat and rinse and repeat and rinse and repeat until those customers think about you and they think about that brand promise. They think about the things that you've been trying to hammer home with them that you provide.
Second thing, longevity wins. I've heard it said that the longest lasting businesses are the longest lasting businesses. Really, it's like as simple as just like keep at it. There is a point on every Dragon's Den where people are told to give up their dreams, and there's a certain amount of truth to be seen in that. If things are going horribly wrong, do not ruin your life trying to keep business going by any means. But on the other hand, longevity, like what makes a lasting business is lasting. So no matter how many pivots you got to go through, no matter how many adjustments you have to go through, if you want your business to last, just work on making it last. And that might mean changing it. That might mean brushing up on this area or that. But really sticking around and trying to make it work is half, if not 75% of the magic to making it work.
The next one is that people care. And so it speaks for itself, but just literally start listening to the platforms that you're on and what people are saying about you and about your brand. Even what each other in this group is saying about your brand. I mean, we learned earlier that something sticks a little bit differently in everybody's brain. And so it's important to sort of take those into effect and again, test and see if that is true for your larger audiences. And if not, then you pivot again and try a different kind of message from there.
And then also, finally, people don't care, right? So there is a certain extent to people, and what we mean by this is that people don't care about your business as much as they care about what your business gets them, right? There's this idea that subconsciously, and it's selfish in like a not negative way. But when someone comes up to me and is talking about their business, or when someone is putting some marketing in front of me, there are kind of 3 questions that I think humans naturally ask subconsciously. It's what are you offering? What's in it for me? And how's it going to make my life better, right? Until those questions are answered, I don't really care, right? If I don't see the need and I don't see how that need relates to me, and if that need doesn't make my life better, why am I going to pay attention, right? So those who care for a reason, because they've already seen how what you offer makes their life better. But people aren't going to care until they see that stuff, right? So, make sure you are playing into what people actually care about and putting them and their needs ahead of you when you're talking about that. Right? I think that's it for the shorter time period that we took longer with. Of course, I spread it out a bit, knowing that we had the time. Figured give you guys your money's worth, right? So if there's, I don't know if we have any time for any quick questions. I was going to say too, Kendra, I'll offer up, both of us for any stuff after if you want to hit us up here. Past years I've followed up with people months in after the program's done. So feel free to reach out after.
Totally.
clarification or anything.
I can, like, it's up to your guys' schedules. I always usually stay on a little bit after 4 if you guys want to stick around for questions, but I also understand the two of you have busy lives to get back to as well. It's totally up to you.
Yeah. Do you got to get to the photo though? Do you guys have a photo you need to take?
I think we might do it tomorrow because
Okay.
get everybody a chance to prepare, you know, put their best hair on or best hat.
Okay. Gotcha. Oh yeah, man. No COVID cuts.
I'm just gonna fully embrace it, you know. Yeah. Does anyone have questions they want to ask?
I did say cheese. Your answer is right. Like about needing unique businesses, needing unique branding, for sure. You don't get what you don't pay for, right? Which is just another way of saying if you want to be unique and if you want to have something that's infused with who you are and what you stand for, then chances are you're going to want to work with someone who's working to pull that out. It's really easy to make an aesthetically pleasing logo. It's really easy to make something that grabs people's attention, but working with a designer will give you something that holds people's attention, right? And I think that's going to be the big difference in the long run. At the same time, like, I mean, some people do just hit it. Like, some of the free sites don't actually do horrible work. I wouldn't bet on them and I wouldn't count on them, but people do, you know, every once in a while literally get lucky. So it's just a matter of luck for some of that. Is that helpful at all? It's a tough one to answer though, because it is really hard when there's a lot of good free stuff out there available. It's just not unique.
Anybody else?
I have a question about graphic design, working with graphic designers. What, like, I mean, I know that we need a logo, but like, what do we ask for, like, in terms of like a file size or like a format, or like, what should we be getting from a graphic designer that we can use in our contract with them?
Yeah, ultimately you're looking for a vector file. So a vector file will either be in my like, I mean, I'll put this here too. Vector file .ai or .eps. They'll know what that means. But, excuse me. But what that means to you is that is a working file that you can make any size without it losing any resolution. So generally, you'll ask them for the working vector file, and then you can ask them for like print, web, and you know, social sizes. And you know, different agencies will, or different designers will give you the working file, but then they'll also give you like a preset. Here's a small, medium, large for print. Here's a small, medium, large for the web. And it's really just up to you how many of those you want to get from them, or if you want to like take a crack at Illustrator and just exporting the logo yourself after, which is, you can't really go wrong, but it's also a bit of a learning curve. But vector file is the big thing to ask for. If they just give you a JPEG, you're going to bump into trouble at some point.
Such a soft ending to that. We're gonna bump slightly, jostle into trouble.
Yeah.
Any other comments, Janan?
No, that's good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Awesome.
I just saw a hand.
Yeah. He has a question.
So when you're just starting out, like I got this information, now I want to just start with my first concept. How do you know what to tell the graphic designer for them to grasp that first concept and be able to, like, because like you're kind of telling them all this information, but what do you need to tell them for them to actually be able to give you a good first start? Because I'm pretty picky and I really don't see how anyone can take what's in my mind and actually make a graphic from it, but it's their job. So I'm like, okay, what do I need to tell them to get them to do that?
Yeah, you've totally nailed it on the head. The other line I often use is, an artist takes what's inside their head and puts it out in the world, and a designer takes what's in other people's head and puts it out in the world. So you've got it that like their job is getting inside your head and pulling that stuff out. They should come with some tools themselves, but a couple things that you can do to help them out for sure is create a Pinterest board or a mood board of pulling logos that you do like or any sort of imagery that you like and having a reason why you like it. Now that doesn't need to be related to your business even. You can just say, here are things I like the look of and here's why I like the look of those. And then on the other side, say, in regard to my business, here is the emotion I want to create. Here's the feeling I want to create, and talk in those really subjective terms. You know, I would like my logo to feel expensive, or I would like my logo to feel approachable. Like get as touchy-feely as you can with how you want someone seeing your logo to feel. And so when you kind of take those two things, here's imagery that I like and that I resonate with, and here's why I like it. And then here's the feelings that I want my logo to kind of create in people. The kind of two things together should kind of create in that designer's mind an idea for your taste, an idea for where they want the business to go. And hopefully what that melds with is a good like first crack at something that they know is going to at least be close to your style, but also your business. And then from there, then they can work on melding your style, the style part of it into closer to what the business needs rather than just what you as a person likes. Cool. That is the hardest part for me though. I spend like a ton of time working with clients, looking at like pages of logos and just asking people, how does this make you feel? What do you think of this? What do you think of that? And some people hate doing that. Like they're gonna, so many times, yeah, some people really hate it. So the fact that you're already interested in doing it, a designer is going to be extremely happy to have you as a client because that part could be like pulling teeth.
Yeah, I think it's the dialogue, definitely, just to kind of sum up that too. Like, as long as you're willing to describe things as much as possible and they're willing to keep asking questions, then you're going to come up with something that I think you'll be happy with. Yeah.
Yeah. And don't worry, most designers won't take it personally. It's a craft. It's a total craft and science. Like we're here to express you. So if you don't like what I made, that just means I didn't listen well enough. My feelings aren't hurt or anything, right? I just got to listen, find it.
To a point, don't be mean.
Always personable, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think this is a good place to end it, guys. Thank you so much, James and Kendra, for sticking around this long and doing what has become our annual awesome tag team dynamic duo presentation. I learned more this time than I did last time, and I think hopefully next year we'll learn even more. Well, I hope all of you that were watching and paying attention learned something. Thanks both of you for sharing your contact information with the cohort. Definitely, guys, if you have questions, take advantage of that offer. Build your network. That's key. And Kendra and James, they know a lot of people in London. And everyone, if you've got your camera on, Jenny, if you want to do a big group photo, we can just do just a regular one. Everybody give James and Kendra a nice Leap Junction farewell.
Are we waving too? Or do we just stand here and receive the wave?
You are receiving.
We'll take it. Yeah. Turn that wave on. Love it.
In all honesty, guys, thank you so much for doing this again. We love having you here. You guys bring so much value to this program, and we really do appreciate you carving out some time to make this happen. And I hope soon we can be together in person and have some good times together. So thank you again for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your week.
Oh, thanks, you guys. Have a
Thank
rest.
you.
Take care, guys.
Take care.
All right, Leapers. That brings us to the end of our day today. I know that was a bit of a long one, but there's tons of good info in there. I hope you enjoyed it. I know there was a lot, so if there's something you missed, Zoom recordings will be up before end of day today. And if anyone has a deep burning question that they need to ask, I'll stick around for the next 10 minutes to help you out. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day, and we will see you back at 1 o'clock tomorrow. Make sure to bring, I think Jenny was asking for a Fanshawe hat. Jenny, if you want to pop in quickly.
Yeah, if you have the hat that you got in your gift pack, or if you have any other kind of hat, we're just going to do a punny little photo. So I'll explain more then.
Thanks, Jenny. Awesome. Have a great day, guys. Rachel, you left yours at home. That's okay. You have a hat right there.
Hey, you're wearing one, silly goose.
Enjoy the weather.
I'm here to chat with Evody.
Okay, you want to break? Do you here? Do you want to just go on a breakout room?
Yep. All right, we're going to room 2, Evody.
Okay.